Yeah, because there's no way YouTube Shorts brings in like money, right? Like it's because I don't have as much experience with YouTube Shorts as I do with like Reels or something. But like you
Yeah.
have to scroll for like probably 5 to 10 videos before you even get like any ad, right? And then you just scroll right past it. It doesn't have
Yeah.
anything you have to watch or anything like that. So it's like,
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't know how. I don't know how company. I like companies make money off of ad revenue, but I don't know. Do these companies just donate YouTube millions of dollars and just be like, okay, now you pick out who deserves the money? I don't know how that system works.
that's for you to figure out as the chief marketing officer.
As the chief marketing officer, the only person of the two of us that has never taken a marketing class.
Also, the only person of the two of us who has never marketed our podcast.
Because I don't know how. I didn't take the class.
I I will say though, I'm glad I had a few other people hit me up like after posting on YouTube, just like
Yeah.
hitting me up, be like, hey, like I'm actually gonna watch this episode now. I'm like, oh, interesting. I I guess we forgot like
David, God damn it, we gotta up our content. We gotta make it better
well, I
because
think
people are
we
gonna be
just
watching this now.
we just forgot that like when we used to post on YouTube, yeah, it's like half of our views back then was maybe inflated. Um, but but I think we forgot that like it was a lot of fun to like watch those videos. I think more for people, and that most
Yeah,
people that aren't into podcasts aren't on Spotify listening to podcasts. Like
that's true.
that's I think
Yeah,
it's
you
much
don't
easier for
you don't discover people on Spotify or Apple Music. You discover people on YouTube, and then you're just like, okay, I like this content. I'm gonna look for their content on Spotify, or at
I
least
think that's
that's
what
what
I'm
I do.
yeah, I think that's what I'm noticing about like about podcasts in general is that I I've found a few like not even that I listen to regularly, but I found a few like one like Basement Yard or like I've said before, Good Mythical Mornings podcast and all that. And like I've only discovered them through clips on YouTube, clips on Instagram or whatever. Because like
Hmm.
it's really hard to convince someone to be like, hey, I know you don't know who I am or what I talk about or what I stand for, but like just listen to audio clips of me while you're like working out. Like it's a lot harder than being like, hey, here's a funny 20-minute clip, 20-second clip of
Dave, that's I'm gonna write this down. That's something I need to do. I need to go back. A project of mine, and this is going to be a long running project. I'm going to write this down, and if I write things down, things happen. I need to go through each video systematically and just find the best clips, and then after I find the best clips, try to find like create a montage of just like workout motivation, and then just post that on to our YouTube channel.
we just have to yeah,
Like
we
a
have to dip our toe into each of the genres. It'll be like I was actually thinking that the other like I saw a clip of like it was The Boys or something. It was some clip of Billy Butcher saying something, and then it was just a guy just bench pressing. So yeah, like something like that. You know?
what, what's a topic we frequently talk about?
Well, like I feel like
The
AI
gym.
doesn't really play. Yeah, like the gym. Obviously, I think that's our best bet because you could scrub any of our episodes and find at least 30 minutes of content.
Just about gym. No, we need to. I think for episodes we need to be more alive. We need to be more spontaneous and more aggressive. Because I think if we get more aggressive, that translates really well into just gym and pump and ah.
Well, that's why I do think like with how even as much as we've said, it's a lot. I'm a lot more pleasant as a person to talk to and like have a conversation with than I was before.
Yeah.
But I will say, the guy I was before, clips of me, better for gym motivation and like
Oh my god. I I'm just
spontaneity.
I'm just imagining some of the old basement episodes where you would just like freak out and just like start yelling at us like in the middle of the podcast when we disagreed with you.
Well, so I thought that some of the older ones were lost, right? Because I think that the earliest ones on Spotify are probably I think episode 3 or 5 or something is the earliest one. So I thought that like 1 and 2 were lost, but 1 and 2,
They're on YouTube, aren't they?
yeah, 1 and 2 are only available on YouTube,
Which
and
is dangerous
because
because
those are our wildest. Those are like when we were actually actively drinking and arguing, like when we had to take breaks because we had drunk too much.
We had to take breaks because we had to go pee.
It was like every
If you're,
15 minutes when we were, because that was when we were cutting too, right? I think like, or around when we started cutting. So,
I don't think so, because once we were cutting, we were pretty like straight,
we were sober. Yeah.
mostly sober.
I think we just pee
I
a lot as
cheated.
a house. Go ahead.
We did. Well, we just drank water, and then we would have some beer, and we would just rotate. It was like every 30 minutes. Like you would go pee, then I would have to go pee, and then Ryan would have to go pee. Just a lot of peeing going on. But where was I going with this? Sorry, I got distracted myself. Um, yeah, peeing hustle. Yeah, once we were like on our cut, I cheated the system. Because do you remember my strategy that I would used to do when how I would limit the amount of beers that I'd have throughout the week?
Oh, I'm trying to. Was it? It wasn't the once a week kind of thing, right? That
No,
was
no, no.
going out.
So my strategy was okay for every beer that I drank, and I would limit myself 1 to 2 times, and if I were to go out, it would only be a couple drinks. But my logic was for every beer that I would drink, I had to run a mile that corresponded with that drink. And so I'm like, okay, if I run a mile at a decently fast pace, that's about I'll burn like 80 to 90 calories. That's basically a beer. That's a free beer. So I was running like 10 to 15 miles in a week so that I could just drink beer on the weekend.
This is an honest question. Like, I know obviously at a certain point, like if you're doing 20 beers a day and 20 miles, obviously there's a, a,
I
a
wasn't doing
breakdown.
20 beers a day.
But like but my curiosity is like at what point do you think this will be our first theoretical in a while. How many beer miles would you have to do to like be increasing your quality of health? Right? Because I think I would argue that if you had 3 beers a day and you were running 3 miles a day because of it, you'd be
hmm
net positive for your health.
that's a good question. I think if you already had okay, let's say you had a diet that followed like the 80% 20% rule where you ate like 80% clean, 20% not so clean, and you were just like you were kind of in shape but like your cardiovascular system wasn't great. I think you would definitely be able to increase your cardiovascular endurance. You would improve your heart health overall as opposed to just drinking or I don't know if it would be better than not drinking at all though because
So
drinking is just so bad for your system.
so true. And a caveat, this is coming from the sober guy, so like it's I think it's fair for me to be the guy defending alcohol for a second.
Yeah.
Um, but like for example, me, right? At least like before I started running, when I was running for the Navy, when I was
hmm
just pure lifting and no cardio, right? As we've established before, Luke saw me run my first more than a mile, and it was not
Yep.
pretty.
I've got a video of it. It was amazing.
It was not pretty. Um, but we so at that point, right, when I have no cardio and I was pretty fat and all that, but like
hmm
still lifting, like I had like some like muscle on me. Do you think it would be better or worse for me to not run, not drink beer, or drink a beer for each mile I run every day up
I
to a
think
certain
it would
point?
be better for you. I'm gonna bro science this. I think undoubtedly alcohol is just bad for your system and bad for your brain. But if you already have unhealthy habits and then you add a little bit of exercise into it, I think increasing your cardiovascular health would offset the amount of drinks that you're having. At the very least, you're having because like drinking has it's a social lubricant. It helps people relax at the end of the day. So like if you're like going on a run and then having like a couple beers after you're done running, so you did the healthy thing and then you do the unhealthy thing, but the unhealthy thing is like calming you a little bit. There's like a calming sensation with drinking. Um, that could be good. Maybe not every day.
So the question is, at how many beer miles does it like for sure become negative? I think like my initial like swag at it is like 5. Probably like if you're
I think it depends on your size too. Like if you're like a 110-pound girl and you're doing this and you're having 5 beers after and you're getting completely wasted.
okay, so let's say like I think
If you're like over 200 pounds and you're just kind of a bigger person, I think you could do about 4 would be fine. I know people that would do that anyways in college and just not exercise at
Yeah.
all. They turned out okay.
Okay, so let's set a range. Eight is for sure too much.
Eight is for sure way
Eight,
too
eight,
many.
eight is for sure like okay, now you're damaging yourself.
No,
But like
we're stop. Eight is way too many. One's too few. Because if you're just running 1 mile, are we talking about? Are we talking?
one
Is this a
one
mile
beer
a
at a
week
time is
or?
too few.
Yeah, one, it's not doing anything. Two,
No,
that 1 mile's not doing enough. Is this miles in a week or miles in a day?
so I guess we could just make it like depending, right? Because I even when I was drinking, and like honestly, even when me and you were both drinking, neither of us are really drinking during the week. Like once in a while, but like it was mostly weekend. All right, like
Yeah,
but like
sure.
the heavier drinking. So
You're
you
speaking
weren't
from your perspective.
okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't see what you did when you were hiding from me. But I at least from my perspective, like I was just limiting my drinking to the weekends. Even the heaviest drinking I did when I was doing two times a week, it was just on the weekends, right? Like Friday night, Saturday night.
Mhm.
So let's say like regardless of the situation, regardless of if you're doing well, let's just average it out to weekly, right? I I don't know. I feel like even if it was daily, I feel like I'd take a guess that 3 beers a day, running 3 miles a day, I'd take a guess that that for sure is still net positive on your health, at least for someone who's not trained, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's like a guy who runs half marathons every day, adding 3 extra beers in for 3 miles, not really a wise trade-off, I think, at that point.
No, it's fine. You're hydrating yourself. Although alcohol is a diuretic, whatever. You're hydrating.
I, I would take a guess and say like at 180, 200 pounds, 5 beers in 5 miles. That's probably a health. That's probably healthy. That's probably a net
I, I
healthy.
I think five is the gray zone. I think five. Once you go over five, it starts to become bad. But I think like a
We're good
little
with
under.
four.
I think four is the sweet spot. Because
I would.
four, you're only like mildly impaired at that point. You could probably still drive if you're a bigger person off of 4 drinks. Uh, so you're not having like that much cognitive effect to your system, but you're also running 4 miles, and that has wonderful health benefits. Dave, I'm gonna bring this back. I'm gonna start drinking again, and
I think
incorporate
I would
running.
feel. I think I would feel comfortable as someone who is not medically trained, medically recommending 4 beers and 4 miles a day to individuals. I think I would feel comfortable with that. I
Dave, the amount of patients that I see that are already drinking 4 or more drinks and not doing any exercise on top of that, way too many. If I could get them to somehow do like an equivalent of 4 miles worth of running, their health would be increased dramatically.
that's always the craziest thing to me. It's like when people will talk about like the trade-offs we made, right? Because I'll tell people how we used to cut, and for anyone who wasn't around us when we were cutting, it was not exactly a healthy relationship with food, I'd say. Like we were healthy, but eating sugar-free Jello, diet tea, and sleep for dinner is usually not like considered a healthy
Oh,
relationship with food.
okay. You're being a little extreme. We ate what we wanted to. We had salads, we had chicken, we had Jack's pizza, and then to incorporate some of the hunger things, we had sugar-free Jello and calorie-free drinks.
But you have to keep in mind, I was 200 pounds eating 1,500 calories a day. That is pretty excessive.
That's what you got down to.
I
You
was
were
doing
doing
1,500.
1500.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
because
that's crazy.
I stopped eating rice, right? So I was doing chicken and salad for lunch, and then or chicken and salad for one meal, and then a Jack's pizza for the other. So
Yeah, you were saving all of your calories at the end of the day. You wanted that Jack's pizza
I
so bad.
I
That was
wanted
the
that Jack's
highlight of
pizza
your
so
day.
bad. That is my biggest pet peeve with being away from Indiana. I mean, like obviously being away from the States, but I found that Indiana was the and honestly Bloomington was the only place I ever had experience with it that we had such a variety of Jack's Pizza and such a wealth of choice, right? Like everywhere else I went afterwards, it was just either they didn't have Jack's Pizza or it was just pepperoni. The worst Jack's
Yeah,
Pizza.
the worst. Well, it's okay. Canadian bacon. That's where you get your bang for your buck.
That's the bang for your buck one. That's like the oh I'm being Only we would
That's
say I'm being healthy by eating a full Canadian bacon pizza, but that was like our healthy choice. The
yeah. There
Mexican
was like
pizza one
the
was the
Mexican pizza was
rewarding yourself.
top tier. The cheeseburger one was really good.
Oh yeah.
I'm partial to the supreme. For anybody that doesn't know, if they're listeners from out of state and they don't know what Jack's Pizza is, Jack's Pizza is the shittiest thin crust pizza that you could get at the store. I think when we were in school, we were getting pizza. We could get four pizzas for $9.
I think 4 for
There,
$10 was the best one I remember, but
yeah.
that went away like
Or was it?
even when we were at school. Like that was like only
Yeah.
our first year of doing that, I think.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing that and we were just like, okay, we've got to get 10 pizzas immediately.
We would have a full Kroger cart of like probably 10 to 15 Jack's pizzas at a time and about 20-liter bottles of sparkling water, Kroger brand sparkling water. That was our entire cart, and then like maybe a box of salad.
Maybe a box of salad, maybe some chicken, maybe some ground beef in there. Some like 97.3 ground beef.
I will say I was talking to someone at work about this, but someone was asking me about like, oh, what do I do for, meal prep, like meals and stuff like that. And I was saying out here, um I'm eating at basically a cafeteria style, like dining facility kind of thing. Um and even though the variety of food changes more often, I was saying I get so much more sick of that, right? Like I've always looked forward to a chicken and rice meal more than anything I've eaten here, which is crazy to me.
Oh,
I'm
really?
looking forward to going back and eating chicken and rice or ground beef and rice. Like
Yeah.
that's
One of my favorite things, because I'm currently on a cut, is when I go out to eat, like once a week or once every other week or so. I really enjoy getting like the out to dinner chicken rice vegetable option. Like I know they put like other shit in it, like butter and oil and whatever, but it's still like relatively healthy. And then just seeing the different variations that you can cook chicken or like the seasonings that you can put on it, things that I would never do just because I'm a boy and I don't know how to cook, and I'm just like, yeah, salt and pepper, that's all you need,
mhm.
right? Um, so that's some of like the highlights when I go out is just like, oh, what fancy way can they do chicken rice and vegetable? Hmm.
My idea of variation and switching it up is switching from normal sugar-free sweet baby rays to hot and spicy sugar-free baby rays. And that was like I'd be like, I'm treating myself this week. I'm switching up the barbecue sauce.
No, uh I never. Yeah, okay, that's crazy. You were doing 1,500 calorie days. I remember. This was before I knew anything about nutrition and like anything at all. Like I had like Google's knowledge when I was like 16, and this was like the first time I tried to lose weight, and I was pretty successful. But I was eating under 1,200 calories a day, where I would go in, I would have a protein shake for breakfast. I would have a pound of chicken breast for lunch, and then I would come home and have another pound of chicken breast, and that would be it. And I would have like sauce and stuff to like mix with it, but that would be like all of the food that I would eat.
Did you live with us when I was eating? So I now only do like a half a pound of chicken breast whenever I eat. But did you live with us when I was basically doing what you did, what you just described, where I would get it wasn't the thin sliced stuff. It was the huge chunks of chicken breast. It
It
was
was
probably a pound at a
yeah,
time, and I'd throw it in
yeah,
the oven, and I would just like it would just be plain chicken breast, and I would just eat it with ketchup and mustard, and like that would be all I ate for a meal.
yeah. I think I've got a photo of you doing that because I was making fun of you because it was it was the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. Because it wasn't even good chicken breast. It was freezer burnt frozen chicken breast that had probably been sitting in Kroger for a year, and you dig it out. Did you even thaw it out? You thawed it out, right?
Uh,
Or did you just do it
I
frozen?
started thawing after I did the thin slice and cooking it myself on a pan, but back when I was
Yeah.
doing oven just baking it, no, it was from frozen.
And another reference. So the house that we were living in was probably one of the shittiest houses of all time. It was a small, tiny blue house, maybe 1,000 square feet total, and there was four people living there. It was terribly small. Our kitchen was half the size of the room that I'm currently in now. And the stove that we had was, if you think of like a standard stove, it's like, I don't know, 3 feet long or something like that. This stove was probably like a foot and a half, like in width. Like I had pans that I couldn't fit in there, just because like it wasn't long enough or wide enough for my pans to fit in there to cook food.
Yeah, when we first moved in, because Luke didn't live with us uh the first year we were in that house, but I can't remember who it was. I believe it was either Ryan or Nate. They brought like cooking sheet or like cooking pans and like oven pans or however you say it. Um, and the first time I had like gotten my food ready, so like I'd taken, I think it was like a pizza. I'd like taken it out of the wrapper and everything. I was so excited to eat it, and I put it on the pan and I put it in the oven and I closed the door and it closes probably halfway, and I just sat there with a frozen pizza unwrapped, just with no way to cook it. So yeah, I think when you moved in and you brought all your stuff, I was like, yeah, half that stuff's gonna just sit there, man. None of that's gonna work.
None of it worked. I'll never forget this. I got bullied so hard by you and Ryan because I brought in a butter container.
Oh yeah.
You guys made fun of me because you're just like, what's the point of the butter container? Like, I'm like, it's so that you have butter ready at all times and you don't have to like thaw it out. It's just ready for you at room temperature.
I will say, as much as I made fun of you, I think I used your butter like multiple times.
You did, because it was nice. It was convenient. It was because anytime that you wanted to cook, it was right there. Butter was ready.
I do tell people that that's like that is the nice thing about having had like obviously I grew up in a pretty nice like environment. Like I didn't have to worry about meals or whatever.
Hmm.
But like having that college environment where you're just kind of just winging it half the time. I I'll get out to like new places and everyone's like, "Oh, it's terrible here." Like I can't the quality of life. There's nothing to do. I'm like any of this. I've told people I'm like I've shared a bathroom with someone, or I've either shared or had a connected bathroom with someone for the past 6 years. And like
Hmm.
a lot of the quality of life stuff doesn't bother me as much because we've had that house situation in college. Like whereas some people like I think got nicer apartments. I'm kind of
Yeah,
grateful that we had just a real just fixer
just a
up that
real
we did not
shitter.
fix up. Yeah.
Well, we did have a cleaning arc where I'm just like, okay, guys, we're living in filth. We need to clean up everything,
The
and that
the
was
problem
fun.
was, yeah, so we did clean, and I remember like for a while, like I think we kept that house as clean as we could keep it, but it was like even if we were to like mop and clean, like deep clean, by 30 minutes later, we could take a wet wipe across the floor and it would just come home, like come back with an inch of dust.
There
Like
was just that house was built in 1970. I remember looking that up, and um, yes, there's 50 years of just grease and just gross stuff all over the floor. It's never been renovated. Um, so yeah, it didn't really matter how much we cleaned. There was still filth underneath after we cleaned it all.
which is kind of it's kind of nice in a way. I know this is gonna sound just gross and like a dude thing to say, but I was like, it was kind of nice because we were like, like there's only so much you can do, like what can you do? Whereas like if you move into like a nice place and then you let it get filthy, it's like okay, that's on you. That's only
Yeah,
on you.
yeah.
No one else is to blame.
Yeah. I remember when I would do like my monthly or semi-monthly mopping of the entire house, and I would just get like so frustrated because it's like I would use the mop one time to clean like a 4x4 piece of area, and then my entire like mop and like the water that I was using would just get completely disgusting, and I would have to essentially just like go grab new water because like the water that I had was too disgusting to clean the rest of the floor with. So like mopping this tiny house was like a 2-hour task.
Do you remember the time we tried to clean the basement? Do like I don't know. We tried
Yeah, no,
once
I
to
of
like
course
mop.
because you guys were telling me no, and I said yes, we need to clean it, especially because it was during COVID, and this was when we were wanting to do the podcast. I'm just like, this is
Mhm.
the perfect spot to start a podcast. There's like wall art right behind us. It's dark and dim and just like perfect. It was a perfect just podcast place, but It was like very filthy, and I was like, okay, I was pushing for like, okay, we got to clean this up, we got to make it look nice, and then we cleaned it all up. It that took like an entire half day just to like get everything like cleaned and organized and kind of semi mopped. We didn't do that hard just because it's a dirty basement with a cement floor. There was only so much that we could do, and I remember like a month or two after that, the basement flooded, and I'm like, okay, this this sucks.
The thing is, I will
All
say,
that work for nothing.
with how filthy that floor was, I'm pretty sure the flooding helped us. I'm pretty sure the flooding washed away a few years of grime underneath.
It probably did, but I don't know. There was probably so much mold down there that we just didn't realize.
We've definitely have spores in our lungs from those times. Like those are they're sitting dormant in us at this moment.
I have been getting like more upper respiratory tract infections since living in there, and I'm wondering if that's because of living in a mold infested house.
I I will say the last time back in Rhode Island, we were living in a red roof inn for 2 weeks, and that's when I like really like I could see like black mold behind the bed frames, and I
Mhm.
remember like feeling just always out of breath and everything, and I was like, oh, like I think I've had this before, like once or twice in the house. I'm pretty sure I've had that before. So we definitely had issues in that house, but
Yeah, and it was exclusively once we started filming podcasts down in the basement because we lived on the upper level, so we were kind of away from the moldy area. It was once we ventured down in there and we'd spend 2 to 3 hours in there at a time.
I kind of want to. I wonder if it's gotten worse or better. You know, like I think we were on. Maybe this is conceited, but I feel like we were on the cleaner end of like college kids. Like I think your influence helped. I was the one like I was the dishes and trash guy. I think I was more the kitchen guy. Like you were
Yeah.
the floor cleaner guy. And I think like your influence helped. And I don't think many college. I think I'd hazard a guess that everyone who's lived there since us probably let it go. It's probably
It's
gross.
it's probably not great. Yeah, in terms of when you think of like stereotypical like dude house, I think we were on the upper end of a dude house. We cleaned regularly enough. We swept a couple times a week, mopped once a month, dusted every now and again.
It did help that we had company. I think that was the nice thing too. It was like once in a while we expected to have a handful of people over, like our old group, and we're like, oh, like
Hmm.
it can't be too filthy in here, you know. But
I I didn't really clean as much for my friends. It was whenever my parents were coming into town. I'm just like, okay, I know I live in a shithole, and I need to make the shithole look semi-presentable so that I just don't completely scare them off.
I think that was the only time I like really put any effort in was when you because I don't think my parents ever visited really. Like once or twice they did, but like it was mostly drop some stuff off, you know, like see each
Yeah.
other for a second, but they didn't really come in. But I remember every time like you'd have this panicked, just like crazed look in your eye, like my mom will be in this house this weekend. We have to get rid of all of this stuff.
I I remember the day that I moved in. My mom was horrified of the place because you had had like a party or something the night before, and on your little table in front of the tiny TV,
Oh
there was
yeah.
just like 20 drinks just sitting there, and I walked in and I was just like, God damn it, Dave! I told you I was coming. I told you my mom was coming, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah, we had probably like three full cases of like, well, three cases of beer worth of empty bottles, just empty cans, just laying around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really bad. I That is something I've matured in, is I think that like I've always had kind of like a hey, I need to be presentable to my friends' parents. Friends not so much.
Hmm.
Friends' parents I try to be presentable. But I remember like that time I
Same.
was like I didn't really think about it. And then now think looking back, I'm like, wow, that was kind of a really bad move.
Because I remember talking to you about it, and I was like, I think I was like passive aggressive about it. I was like, oh yeah, it was kind of messy out there, and you're just like, yeah, and I'm like, say sorry, say sorry now. It was disgusting.
Say
I was like
sorry.
actually, I was actually pissed that you didn't say sorry.
I wasn't one to take accountability in those days.
No, no, you were deflecting for sure. You're just like, yeah, it's we had people over. So what?
That's like such a shift in my mindset now too. Where it's like I don't. I mean, obviously I've still hosted stuff like mostly like our small group back home whenever I go home. But like you've probably seen the shift too, where like every time I have you guys over, it's like just 5 or 6 guys. Like by the time like someone's like, "Hey, I'm about to leave soon," I'm like
Hmm.
already picking up cans and everything. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this, not leaving this out. Whereas like college,
Yeah,
it was just such like a I think just being desensitized to it, right? Like we've lived in filth for a year at that point when you moved in. I was like, it's filth already. Like you know, ashes to ashes kind of thing. Like who cares? So I'm
yeah,
glad I've grown out. That's something I'm glad I've outgrown for sure. But
yeah. No, I appreciate that I was able to help you grow, Dave. I keep hearing these stories about how I've made you better. How have you made me better? You
so
haven't.
there's a few things I will say. There's a few things I won't expose. I straight up won't expose you on because there's a few things like for example your room. I think I called you out and you cleaned it up, right? Like so
I did. I had to. I had to. You
you
you called me out, and I.
you're tracking on you're tracking on what
Yeah,
I'm
of
referencing.
course, of
Okay,
course. I was embarrassed.
okay. You know, I talked to I won't get into detail and like actually won't expose you, but like, I was talking to someone at work about it, and I was like, yeah, like this was the situation. I told him what it was, and he was like, well, here's the thing, like you know, having I'll just call it filth, right? Let's call it what it is. It's
Sure,
filth, but I won't
sure,
get into detail. He was like having zero
sure.
filth. He was like he's like having zero filth is one thing, right? Like it's let's call it a gum wrapper. A lot worse than a gum wrapper, but let's call it a gum wrapper. He's like having no
Okay.
gum wrappers on your ground on the ground. You know, that's one thing. Having one gum wrapper, a really filthy gum wrapper, and having 10, at that point you don't draw a distinction, right? Like once you've been like, I'm okay with having this in my room or having this in my house, this filth, you don't really draw a distinction anymore of like
You
one's
become
okay.
used to it. Now, just imagine. Okay, to be more specific about this example, you have a gum wrapper, right? But now imagine you want to throw the gum wrapper away, but the trash can is completely full, and it doesn't matter how you try to put the gum wrapper in there, it's too full. Like it'll fall out. That's a more accurate representation.
All right, well if we're getting into this, let's say the gum okay, here's the thing, right? Let's say we have a full trash can and a gum wrapper. But that gum wrapper is like it's covered in biohazard. It's biohazard waste, all right? At what point do you say to yourself, all right, maybe this doesn't go in the trash can. Maybe I take it out to the dumpster myself. Because having that in your room is unacceptable to you, not the people you live with, but also you.
Ugh.
But
Okay, I'm
he
done.
did use that example though with like dishes, right? Same thing with like dishes. It's like it's
Yeah,
one thing to have a clean sink, but as soon as you have like one dirty plate in there, what's another four? What's another 10? You know, like it's
yeah, yeah.
once you let a standard slip, who cares?
Yeah, you go from because there was it's binary. It's either clean or not clean, and once you have one unclean thing, you're just like, I'll just I'll go back and clean it later. Like once it's like completely dirty and like have like max efficiency, completely fill it up, and then take care of it all at once.
Also, like I had bad habits as well too. I want to just call it Luke. I had bad habits of like I would defrost my chicken, so there'd just be like a there would be a full Tupperware container, like an entire uh layer of the fridge that would just be raw chicken breast, just soaking, just soaking there for days on end. There would always be raw chicken breast just soaking in its own juices, and
No,
like I
that
would.
wasn't but that wasn't too bad. You typically had it covered up.
What was the? Oh, the complaint was that I was using cookware and just throwing raw chicken breast in there. I think that was the complaint.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think it was specifically my cookware that I wanted to use.
I was
Like I
like,
can't. Dave's using it. I'm like Dave, I want to pack my lunch, but now there's just raw chicken with the Tupperware that I want to use.
we had good times. Those were good times.
I think that all the bad moments, they were never significantly bad that cause like an actual problem. They're just funny now. All and like even after they happened, they were funny like a couple days later. You're just like, this is absurd. What is going on?
Well, I think it does help when there's a balance, right? Because like it's really tough when, for example, um,
If it was one person causing all of the issues,
yeah,
that's an issue. I think you're right with the balance. Like we all had something that just pissed us off just enough to like complain about it, and it would happen like cyclically. It would be like sometimes it would just be like Luke gets shit on, next week David gets shit on, next week Ryan gets shit on.
yeah, because
If I
like I feel
remember correctly, Dave would do the most amount of complaining.
so I will say I did the most amount of complaining, but I think it was because my stuff was the most visible, right? Because I was the one taking out like mostly I was the one who took out most of like the trash and the recycling and things like that,
Yeah, yeah,
and I felt at the time, and I think this was fair to say, I contributed the least trash. I produced the least trash, and
you did.
I was the one cleaning it. Whereas, like, for example, you clean the floors. I was probably doing the most dirt on the floors. Right? So I think, but it is nice, like we said, when it rotates. Because um, when I lived at the last place with Aiden and Kevin, um, like Kevin was just he's just better than me in every like cleaning aspect, like in every way, right? Like he's like very organized, cleans everything, offers to change my car's oil every week, which I was like, dude, like I don't need that, thank you. But like
Every week.
But like he's like on top, like he's always cleaning, always like keeping it organized. And it is tough because I mean, not that I would have called him out on anything because there really was nothing. But when you live with someone who is like just paradigm and you are the filth, that's a really tough relationship. Like if it's one thing because like he would like he's a good guy, so like he doesn't take issue really. Like he'll like jokingly call something out, but like it's not really that bad. Like if
Yeah,
there's a real big distinction, like especially I think a group helps. I think if you're living with multiple guys, it helps a little bit more to even it out.
yeah,
If it's
because you
one
can
on
kind of
one,
vent to because you can vent to the other guy about your issue, and then once you start venting, you're able to settle down, and then you can like calm down enough to like address the other person. You can be like, okay, my anger about the issue's over, but this is a problem, and I'm going to talk to you about the problem now. Sometimes when we weren't there, but sometimes there would be instances where I would just get a text from Dave in the middle of my class and just be like, "Hey, dumbass, you left your dishes in the sink."
I think the worst thing with you was like you got a lot better about it a few months. Like we all got a lot better about each of our like bad habits like a few
Yeah.
months into living with each other. But I remember like my biggest pet peeve was when it'd be like I'd go into the kitchen or you'd tell me you'd be like, hey, like I'm leaving for the weekend, I'm going home. I'm like, okay, cool. And then you'd drive off, and no more than like 30 minutes later, I'd walk into the kitchen, and all of your meal prep from that entire week was sitting in the sink. I was like, this is going to be here for 3 days. I was like,
And then I remember it because I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll get it later. I'm just going to like let things soak over the weekend and then I'll come back and clean it." And then we had a whole debate about like how long we should let things soak for. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, just let it soak for like a day or two. It's no big deal." And then you looked it up and you're like, "Yeah, things don't need to soak more than like 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, it's just disgusting. It's a pool of filth."
I think that was probably one of the like. Don't get me wrong, I've said a lot of contentious statements. I have a habit of saying. I think that's one of my flaws is that I have a habit of saying really extreme statements because mostly because I think it helps people listen more, right? I think it draws people's attention in and like it garners more
It pisses people off,
yeah, it
Dave.
pisses people off enough to engage in conversation. But I think the most contentious thing, like you said, I do remember that exact argument. I don't have a great memory, but I remember that exact one where you were like, "I'm just gonna let it soak over the weekend," and I was so speechless that you would say something like that. Like that, I think I was in shock that anyone would ever say anything like that with a straight face.
Yeah, I just didn't know better. I'm just like, yeah, I'll clean it when it gets back. It's no big deal. It's kind of clean. There's some soap in the water.
And there's like a little bit of soap in the water, but like there's a lot of like pizza just in the water. There's more pizza in the water than soap. We didn't have we didn't have like a garbage disposal in that sink either, right? Like
No,
a
we
yeah.
didn't.
So that was the problem too. Is like we couldn't just like let it go down the drain. We had to reach our hand down into the muck
No,
and dump it out.
no, no. We didn't have to reach down. You would just take like a spoon and clean it out,
That was
and then you,
also the worst
and then
thing.
you,
When like I would see you like taking silverware that like I use regularly because it'd be like something like for example, I was the only one in the house that like Ryan and I used the chopsticks, right? But like I used like them a good amount, and I'd see like I'd walk into the kitchen and I'd see you like there's a little piece of like something in the sink you're trying to force down, and you just have a chopstick just forcing it down, and you kind of give it a rinse. You just kind of give it a rinse, and I'm like, no, like I think I gagged when I saw that.
I just touched food with the chopstick. It's no big deal. There was soap on the food there at some point.
I do remember that being a contention of mine was when I'd see like you were good about cleaning most things, but like it was silverware. I think that was like my big pet peeve with you was like silverware. You would like give it like a quick brush with the with the sponge and then just rinse it off and then put it in the drying rack. I'm like, dude, we all put that fork in our mouth multiple times a day. We only had like
Yeah,
three forks in that house, so it's like if you get one, if one fork gets gross, that's all of us getting sick for the next 2 weeks.
yeah. The demand of the forks was rather high because the supply was so low. Yeah, because it's like you would use it and then you'd have to clean it right away. Otherwise, there would not be enough forks in the house for everybody else to use or eat the rest of the day. You have to clean it at that moment.
Well, that's why Ryan started just like get Ryan. I think me and you would engage in like me and you have always been more comfortable engaging in the conversation, like especially with like each other. I think we're good at like not taking anything personal. We would always be open to confronting each other, but I think Ryan was like done with the dishes arguments and the silver arguments. So that's part of why I don't think he used it ever, but like I think he just started eating microwave meals and like using plasticware for the rest of the time there.
And that circulated into him producing more trash, which circulated into you getting more pissed that you were taking out his trash.
I will say I think overall though I think I am a roommate guy. Right, like I was talking to people, being in the Navy, there's plenty of people who I think more often than not, even like the single guys I know, or like the people with no family or kids, they're living alone because you kind of have the means in the military to do that a little bit easier. But I was talking to someone about that. I was like, I don't think I can really do that. I I I think I'm just built to like be around people. Like even though I don't like strangers, I think I'm built to like need to live with people. Not be doing things at all
I mean,
times, but
yeah,
like
people in general are social animals. So it's like if you are living alone and you're going to work and you're having like minimal communication and then you go home alone, like there's a form of like self-isolation component to that. And I don't feel like that's like some people really can tolerate it, but I can't. Like I really enjoy having that social interaction at the end of the night. And it could just be as simple as like, hey, we don't need to talk very much. Let's just turn on a show and then just be in the moment and just kind of like appreciate the show. Like I that's the only way that I can watch shows now is if I'm with people. I can't watch shows by myself.
yeah. So shows I can I've been getting into watching them by myself a little bit more, just like on the side or between breaks from like reading and things like that. Um, but movies, people at work have always like given me a lot of crap for not having seen a lot of their movies. Or I've seen all the classics, but they give me some C list comedy, and they're like, "Oh, you haven't seen this one." I'm like, I'm not gonna
Like
sit down in my room.
you haven't seen The Lobster with Colin Farrell. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, like they'll quote it, and like I don't recognize. It's like, oh, like you haven't seen that one. You have to watch that one. I was like, when? Like my either I'm not with roommates at the time, or like my roommates are gone or something. I'm not gonna sit down and watch a 2.5 hour movie like just sitting alone in my room. I that's part of the Gen Z ADHD I think we've talked about before, the shows versus movies distinction. But like, yeah, in general, there's a lot of activities that I just do less of when I'm not around people. But I also don't think I don't know if I've said this to you before. I told Kevin this. I was like, I think I'm a little bit like a dog, right? Like I think I don't need like I don't sometimes I don't want to be doing things or like maybe more like a cat. Sometimes I don't want to be doing things with someone, but I want to know that they're there. I'm like
Yeah.
it'll be like I want to make sure like you're in your room, and I'm like, okay, cool. Luke's in his room. He's there. I'm gonna go do my own thing. Doesn't mean I want to interact or anything, but I'm like, I just need the comfort of knowing that someone's in the house.
Yeah, yeah. You do have a cat-like personality. Um, no. Yeah, I've lived alone for a little bit of time now. Just in grad school, I had roommates for about 2 years, and then there was a good half year portion where the roommate that I was with, he graduated, so he moved away, and I was just like living alone. And I noticed like the clear distinction of like, oh, like the house is cleaner generally. Like I and because you feel more responsible for the trash and things that accumulate because I noticed for like me personally, if like something was dirty, I would just be like, oh yeah, that's probably my roommate that made it dirty. Realistically, it was probably a combination of both of us, but I would like offset that problem to, oh, that's probably his thing. And when I moved alone, like my house was just like always spotless and clean and organized, which was like nice and like really good just for like mentally it was just like very appeasing to see like everything's organized and everything's in its home and everything's where it should be. But then when you would come home and you're just like, oh, it's 6 p.m. and I'm not going to go to bed for like another 4 hours. What do I do? It's like I don't really want to watch a like you said, watch a movie by myself or watch TV by myself. So you have to like figure out fun ways to entertain yourself without like going crazy. Especially when like me in particular, I was used to like social interaction at like all points throughout the day.
Yeah, that's something that I've had to deal with a little bit more out here now that a lot of people that I hung out with and spent a lot of time with, because there are a few guys that, every night, we'd get done with work, we'd go to the gym together, get dinner together, and then we'd play Smash together, right? So like basically what we used to do in college. And then they all left. So now I'm like figuring out how to be. I'm figuring out like, I go to the gym, do my meals, gym. I go to work and then gym, and then I'm like, okay, now I have to occupy my alone time. So I actually have been getting back into reading. That's something that I've said I wanted to do. Went to the library like 2 weeks ago, which haven't been to a library in a long time. It's bad, but
Libraries are just kind of fun. It's a nice atmosphere just to like sit down and um, there's like a weird social element to it where it's just nice to be around people and you don't have to like talk to people or like make eye contact, but it's just like nice to know that people are around and that you're a part of like some sort of community. And that community is just people who like to read, which is kind of cool. And you're just sitting there by yourself enjoying your book. I That's something I wish I was doing more of right now because I remember in grad school one of my favorite pastimes was just to like go to the library, study for like an hour, and then like just find a random book and just start reading it. And if I liked the book, I would rent it and finish the rest of the book. And um, with work right now and how much I have to travel, I just haven't been able to do that. But libraries are cool. I like libraries a lot.
yeah, I forgot how nice it was. Like you said, the environment. I walked in and I didn't sit down and read, but I picked out a few books. I I picked up a history book, Mao Zedong. I was like, I need something hard to read so I can like get used to that for law school.
Hmm.
And then I was like, I also need things that like I enjoy reading. I know I enjoy reading, so I picked up you ever read the Inheritance series? Aragon?
No. I yeah. So I read Aragon when I was younger, and then, but it was definitely above my reading level when I was reading it. I think it was like third grade when I was attempting to read it. I essentially like I read Harry Potter at a very young age,
Hmm.
and then just assumed that I could read any book that was that thick as the Harry Potter books, and I would read Aragon, and I just didn't get it at all. And but I'm just like, oh yeah, I kind of understand the stories and the characters, and so I went to go pick up another book, and it was like the third or fourth book in the series, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know anything. These characters are foreign to me. I was just like too young and stupid to realize that I picked up the fourth book. I just like, oh yeah, this is this picture this on the front here has a different colored dragon, so it must be the next book.
That dragon looks cool. I'm gonna read that one next.
Yeah, that's basically what I was. You can't blame me. I was like 8. Dragons were cool.
Dragons are cool, but I did start reading those again because I saw a fifth book got released. I never knew that, but like it has been nice, like just being back in that environment a little more. Like at the library, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just stroll around looking for a good book, and then go up to
Hmm.
the nice little librarian, have a little chat, check like it was an experience that I didn't realize I missed that much.
Hmm.
Like being back in more of a. I think that is part of like the issue though with being such social creatures, and especially the life we've been living for the past 6 years. Like you said, you've been living alone more often, but I've been living with people for the past 6 years. Even in college, like we'd always hang out, watch a show, play some games or whatever. Like we'd always be doing something at all hours. I didn't really have
Hmm.
much alone time. Um, but I forgot how nice it was. Like I still like being around people, and I still think that's the preference. But
Hmm.
that's a skill that I forgot was kind of important to have is being okay with being in your own head a little bit more often.
Yeah, it's a scary place. It's a
Yeah, I'm
scary and cruel world inside your own head. Like like
yeah,
like like not just joking too. Like it's one of the hardest things that a lot of people have to go through is just like figuring out what to do with their own mind and how to be okay living in their own skin. Like it's not like when I was younger, I thought that concept was always kind of silly. I'm just like, yeah, you're just you, just exist, just be happy. But as you get older and you have like things happen, it's just like you realize that a lot of the things that you're doing actively, whether that's like um, sports or things you like to do or just hanging out with others, can sometimes just be a distraction from things that you aren't facing yourself. And I feel like you need that alone time to discover who you are. Like I don't want to be like cringe and like go on your discovery journey or whatever, but like realistically every person needs to go through that where they need to figure out who they are, what they like doing, who they want to become. And I think the only way that you can truly do that is to spend some time in isolation and be by yourself and go through that journey by yourself.
yeah. I think that I've been giving people a lot more slack. Well, not giving people slack. Like I'm the arbiter of truth. Um, I've been less harsh on people in my mind about like escaping or like escapism with whether it be going out or really pursuing those social avenues or just doing more things with people. Just because I do realize, and I think me and you have always been pretty good about like that introspection, like spending that time to like kind of get to know ourselves a little bit more and really think about who we are as people and what we want out of life. Um, but I think that I do recognize that it's not fun a lot of the time. Like not just boring, but like also terrifying to be with your own thoughts a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I've been more kind of understanding of like, okay, I understand why like that's the human condition, right? It's like it's either you embrace the suffering and then you become a Nietzsche or a oh God, I really don't know my philosophy. The absurdism. Who's the absurdism guy?
Camus.
Yeah. Like either like you like embrace the thinking about the world and how it is, and you like develop your own defensive mechanisms against it, or you just just a pure hedonist and you
Hmm.
kind of try to avoid it. And I think that I've kind of gotten to the point where like I still think there's a better way. I think that it is healthier in the long run and better for you as a person, and not just talking for our short existences and whether or not things matter or not, but like I think just experiencing life. I think there's more to be said about thinking about it and really comprehending what you're living through. But I don't I don't crash on people as much for like trying to escape it, right? Because I think it's a very I understand it a lot more now. Like you said, as a kid, you don't really get it. But as someone who you start going through things and you start thinking about those things and you're like, okay, I get why people drink, right? Like,
Yeah, it's a way to escape from it all. Because yeah, life is it's hard. It's difficult. It's confusing. It's challenging. It's whatever other synonym you want to use for difficult because it's a confusing experience and everybody's experience is going to be different. And so there's no blueprint for you out there. And I think that's the struggle that's I've been kind of going through recently where um I've always had like a blueprint. Like you go to school and then you do well in school and you get rewarded for your success and then you go on to more school and you do well, get rewarded for your success and then you do more school um and then you do well, get rewarded for your success and then what do you do once you start your career? Do you continue down the same path of like okay, you do well, get rewarded for your success and move up or is like does that ever end? Do you like the avenues for opportunity significantly increase after like school and grad school. So how do you make your own blueprint? How do you navigate this confusing thing known as life without going completely crazy or getting lost on your journey and figuring out not only who you are but like who you want to be to the world and your community and your family and your loved ones. I feel like it's the world asks a lot from you and you can make it as complicated as you want to, where you can think about every possible future and every different scenario and try to find the most perfect thing. Or you can really dumb it down and just think about like, okay, I just need to go to work, do what I'm told, and have enough money to do the things that I want to do with my family, and while doing that, pursue the hobbies I enjoy. Um, I think there's different theories on that out there, and the ways to navigate it. But I think just finding the one that fits best with your personality is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of I think that's the most important thing about like that introspection is like you don't have to take it all the way to you don't have to introspect for the rest of your life and just sit there and think about things and figure out a 50-year plan for your life. But I think
Well, no, and that's another issue too, because if you spend all of your time doing this introspective and you do all this time selfishly thinking about yourself, you're taking away from like what life actually is, because life isn't just about trying to figure out like what's perfect for you. Life is so much more complicated than that, and I feel like it's selfish in a way. And there's times where you need to be selfish, obviously, where you need to figure out what's important to you. But if you spend all of your time in that area, I feel like that just leads you down into a pit of despair potentially.
yeah,
Because that's something I've heard more recently too, and this is coming from like more fringe psychologists where they talk about like how counseling for men doesn't really work because men don't get better by just continually talking about their problems, because if you just talk about the problems it makes the problem bigger.
I will say yeah, like in reference to that, I think there is something to be said about experience that's not experience, but it's not like, oh, experience that you're just trying to run from thinking like I've grown so much more. I mean, both of us have grown so much more from our experiences and living life and doing things. And like I've learned way more about myself as a person and what I want to do, um, than I would. I've gone so much farther with doing the things than I would sitting in a room thinking about whether I want to do it. Right. So
Hmm.
there is definitely something that you said about like the action being um, the action being more meaningful than the thinking than the planning, right? Because like
Yeah.
I think that that is the argument against a lot of. I think that's the argument I have personally against a lot of like just pure thinkers, because I can think they have good points, right? Like I think like there's a lot of things that I like from the great philosophers or the schools of thought, but for example, a critique that a lot of people have, and I think I agree with about like professors, right? A lot of professors, plenty of them have industry experience or they have life experience, but there's plenty of them that went straight through school and have never seen the outside world, and they've got all these views on what they think that the world is without ever having seen it, just reading about it. And
Hmm.
it's like, how can you? And some people, they'll they'll take them at their word, cool, no problem, they can eat it up. But I think for me, and I imagine for you too, it's like it's harder for me to listen to someone who's never actually done the thing themselves and just read a lot of books about it. and like to take that as gospel or to give it any credence. Right? Like we said before, it's the fallacy of kind of experience. But like if you listen to someone who's only studied exercise science and physiology and nutritionists and all that, like, and you listen to them talk about how you become a bodybuilder, like, okay, dude,
And
hey,
then
you've
but
never
then
touched a weight.
they've never, yeah, they've never touched a weight. They don't practice what they preach. It's one of the biggest pet peeves. I've mentioned it before about like physical therapists and like people in like healthcare in general. If you are not physically healthy or mentally healthy, and yet you are giving the advice to people that are struggling, and you don't follow your same set of rules, you're a hypocrite. And nothing pisses me off more than a hypocrite, especially in the field that I'm in. Like, I don't know. Like, it's okay to be like a little overweight, or like if like working out necessarily like isn't your thing, but you still like find ways to be like functionally active. So like you like to go on hikes and walks and you like to run a little bit. That's fine. But like nothing makes me more upset when there's like a 400-pound physical
Fat
therapist.
doctor,
I'm just
a
like,
fat
yeah,
doctor is basically what you're saying.
yeah, a fat doctor pisses me off to no end. It's like you're not taking your own advice. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Practice what you preach.
Yeah, I think hypocrisy has always been like I fully agree. Hypocrisy has always been whenever anyone says like what's your biggest pet peeve or biggest hate, like it's always been hypocrisy, right? And I think that as someone who a lot of people like kind of look at a guy like me who like gives like pretty extreme statements, like I've said, like I have pretty extreme takes on the world. I have pretty extreme takes about like who you should be as a person, what you should do with your life. But I've I think just naturally because of that instinct to not like hypocrites. Um, if you actually examine like a lot of what I say, I've never preached anything that I don't practice or never or that I don't think I can do 100% well. Right? Like
Yeah.
I've said before to people, I'm like, for example, people who ask about like, hey, like how do you get in shape or how do you look good? How do you build a good physique? I'm like, hey, like I think you should do these things. These are what I do. But also, when I'm back at the stateside, I eat Taco Bell and Burger King like twice a week. Right?
Yeah.
I do. I'm not fully committed. Like I do these things. I enjoy life a little bit. I don't just. I'm not 100% bought into anything really. So like, which you could argue is also a bad thing that I'm not like committed to something. But like, I think that's something I've always structured myself around is just being like, just don't say things if you can't back it up. Right? Like it's
Hmm.
like I said, I talk about keeping a clean house or whatever. But in every discussion I've ever had, whether it be with you, my roommates, people at work, they're like, hey, like something about keeping a clean house. I bet you have like a nasty house. I'm like, oh no, I have a clean house, but I have a very very messy house. That's the difference. Like I'm telling you, I'm like, I know where my faults lie.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
like
gonna preach it.
it's not organ it's clean, but it's not organized. And just because it's not organized to somebody else doesn't mean it's not kind of organized to you. If you can figure out how to navigate your house and find the things that you need, who cares? Whatever.
I told this story one time, and obviously, I think every single man, I'm sure plenty of women, but like every single man has had this experience once. But like one of them exemplifies it. Was one time I was this was back in Virginia, like when I first got there. I remember my roommate was like, "Hey, like I'm trying to go to the beach. Do you have any sunscreen?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like behind the bottles, like on the sink on the left side." And he digs through and he finds this little tube of like travel sunscreen. He was like, why was this there? How did you know that was there? I was like, oh, because it like fell from the counter. He's like, why didn't you pick it up? I was like, well, I didn't need to pick it up. I knew it'd be behind there. So like, like next time I need it, I could grab it from behind everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, my speaking of that, my room right now is in complete disarray. I've been traveling, so I just have like clothes and stuff everywhere, and that's gonna be my project once I'm done here. But no, yeah, that's a good point. Like, there's a difference between cleanliness and organization, and I think that's where you and I differed when we were living together, where I was more organizational and you were more clean.
Yeah, I remember just another story was when I was living with in Newport. Mara, my roommate, she walked into my room one time. We would just go into each other's rooms, just chat, and like she walked in and she was like, "Oh, like are you going home or like are you going on a trip or something?" And I was like, no, like, why do you ask? She's like, your suitcase, it's fully packed. You have all your clothes in there. And it's like February or March at this point, right? And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, no, no, no. That's from when I went home for Christmas. And she goes, that was 2 months ago. And I was like, well, well, yeah, but like you know, I when I need clothes to shower, I pull them out of there, and when I finish my laundry, I dump them all in my suitcase, and then and then I use them
Dude,
when I need them. So like,
that is wild.
so I'm not that bad anymore, right? I try to really coast off the
But
like
like
you've said
that's not
before.
but that's not terrible. Like you have a home for your things, and that home just looks different than what most other people do. Most other people put it in, I don't know, their drawer. But your suitcase is just acting as a drawer. That's not that big of a deal.
Do
It's
you
weird.
do you remember
It's
when
weird.
well, who was it? It might have been, I think it was Khan or Mitch or one of the guys. But when we went to Nashville, it was like, what was it like? It was like we stayed for like 2 nights, right? So it was like what, like a total of 2.5 days basically there. And I remember when we first got there, each of us had our little like carry-ons or suitcases or whatever, just brought some clothes. And I remember I want to say it was Khan, but like someone started like taking their clothes out of their suitcase and putting it in like the hotel drawers. And like I remember every single person in that room started giving that person so much shit. Like we're like, what are you doing? Like, are you moving in? Like it's like we're gonna be here for 2 days. But like for me, that's kind of the mindset I kind of extrapolate out for months on end, which is not healthy. I do try to I've tried to embrace your philosophy that you always had where you're like, hey, when I'm on a cleaning kick, I'm on a cleaning kick, and you just fully clean, you do everything, you just go on these like hour-long binges. I've tried to kind of take that into stride where I'm like, when I move into a room, I'm like, okay, I need to do everything right now because if I don't do it in the next 2 hours, it will not get done for the next 3 months.
Yep. Yep. I was having this conversation the other day where because I've been like moving around from place to place over the past 7 years or so. Um, I've told them like I need to get all of just my organizational stuff and like wall decorations and things organized on that first day because if I don't do it on that first day, it'll never get done because after that first day, I don't think about like, oh, I have like a year that I'm living here. I'm thinking, oh, this is a temporary residence. I'm not putting any more effort into this place to make it look nice. So after that first day, that the whole design process just goes out the window.
Hey, so they're doing like little just like room inspections, making sure no one's being like completely gross here. Um, but when I first got to Germany, I like, I didn't move out. I was like, I'm gonna be here for a week, then I'm gonna go somewhere else in Germany, right? And then I got to the other place. I'd been there for like 2 weeks. I was like, by the 2 week mark, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be here for the next few months. I might as well move out. So I started moving all my stuff from my big bag into the drawers, into the closet. Found out 2 weeks in that I'm going back, or like I'm going to another
Mm.
place. So I got here and fully with the knowledge that I'm gonna be here for months on end. And I still haven't moved my stuff out of my roller bag. And the people who did the room inspection were like, "Hey, Dave, you know you're going to be here for like months, right? They're not going to move you anymore. Like you can you can move out of your suitcase." I was like, "No, like I, I've now become like that transient mindset has now become ingrained in me. Like if I think I'm going to be somewhere for not that long, I'm not going to move in, right? Like so,
Yeah.
it, I think I always had that mindset a little bit when even when I have like a home, right? Like I'm like, hey, I'm going to be here for a year. Still hard for me to be like I don't know. I think there's a laziness to it, but I feel like it's a warranted laziness because I'm like, it's not, I don't think it's the moving out. It's because I plan so far out. I'm like, I have to move all this stuff back into my suitcase
Hmm.
and leave soon,
Hmm.
soon being 12 months. Um, but, but like, it's that part that gets me. It's the back end that,
Yeah, it's just like okay, I don't want to be putting all this effort in for me to put the same amount of effort, if not more, into moving everything out. No, the older and the more that I've moved around, the more minimalist that I've become. Where like I just don't take stuff anywhere. Like I've been on these clinical rotations now that go from like 2 to 3 months, and I just bring one suitcase with me. I bring one suitcase, I bring my guitar, I bring my backpack, and I'll bring like a couple pictures just because I like to see like pictures in like my room and stuff. Outside of that, that's the only thing I bring anywhere. for like these 2 to 3 month rotations.
That's what's always boggled my mind when people are like just like having more things, right? I've told people I'm like, I don't like having things. I like having the things that I use a lot. I like having nice things, right? Like
Hmm.
I just bought a new phone. It gets in like a week or two because I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have this for the next 5 years. My current one's like 5 years old already. Um, but like a lot of people, I'm in basically logistics. People will be like, "Hey, like, do you want this free thing? Do you want these? Do you want this new pair of shoes?" I'm like, "Dude, I have 4 pairs of shoes already." I was like, it already takes up a quarter of my suitcase. Like, no, I don't want more things. But some people
Yeah.
are just comfortable with owning more stuff, and that's always been weird to me. And I think maybe it's because me and you are. I think I'm in this student mindset because I'm going to be a student in a year and a half. I think like being in that like kind of student mindset where you're like, I I am not permanently anywhere for the foreseeable future. And
Hmm.
it's hard to settle down and some people don't get it because they have like houses, right? They own property. They're like, ah, I have a home gym. That makes sense. If you own a house and you're like, hey, I can afford to put a home gym in here, I can start to make renovations. Yeah, but like if I'm renting a place, I'm not exactly screwing in a squat rack into the wall. Like it's
No, no, you can't be doing that. You could buy one of those freestand squat racks if you really wanted to. Those are expensive. No, my parents right now are like, they're getting frustrated at me. Not like actually, but just like minor, because I'm acquiring just like different pieces of furniture, just like over the course of like whether that be, like the coffee table, or like when my grandma passed away, I got a desk, and I've got another desk here, and I've got a bed that you gave me, and I just
oh, you
like
still got
I
that?
have, yeah, yeah, yeah. But like we just have I have all of these things that are like things that I own, but I don't have a place to put it. So they're just awkwardly in my parents' house, and they're just like, "Luke, we need you to move out so that you can like take all of the shit with you." I think once I get a job, I'm just gonna get uh a storage unit and just put all my stuff in there.
That's what I moved out of my place, now that I'm unemployment and I have everything just in a store. My entire life is in a storage unit right now. And I was thinking
Mhm.
about like I was looking at how much crap I have in there, like you were saying, and I was like, I'm gonna throw half this stuff away when I like get back because now I've like you said for your clinicals, like I've been living out of essentially a Pelican box and a roller bag and like a gym
Mhm.
bag for months, right? And like that's all I need. And I'm realizing now I'm like I don't need that much stuff. So
Mhm.
I I'm gonna do the same thing you do, which is hoard and keep it at my parents' house when I go home. But but like I don't know. It's just such a weird. I don't know. Maybe it's something that once we grow up and we have our own places, once we have like once we're more established, maybe we'll change. But like my old room in my parents' house is filled with probably like probably 20 to 50 to 80 different like sets of like pieces of clothing that I'm never gonna wear ever again. Or like
Oh
that's
yeah. Like when I came home this most recent time, and because I'm living here now, I went through my closet and I just got rid of like a quarter of everything. So I'm just like, these are things that I just haven't worn ever, or things that I'll never wear in the future. I'm just like, okay, I just need this out of my life just because it's taking up so much space.
I I hope I'll grow out of it because I think I think it is it's nice and I do think there's a bit of like healthy factor for us to be in that minimalist mindset. I think like it's it's good for people to be comfortable with less. I think that's something that's a statement I'd be feel comfortable making. But at the same time, right, like I get a lot of flack from people I work with, right? Because mo pretty much everyone I work with has a spouse and kids. Um, and they'll talk to me. They're like, hey, like, what's your house situation? Do you need like a couch? Do you need like? I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, they're like, oh, do you need like a dining set? I'm like, no, we have a table and I have a cooler that I sit on for dinner. And they're like,
Damn,
do you guys
that
need a
is
couch or
wild.
something? And I'm like, no, 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 like we're good. I have a Pelican case that we sit on for the couch. Like, and they're like, dude,
No, no, you're joking, right? That's not real life.
oh no, the cooler is common knowledge. All like probably 50 to 100 different people like at my work in my office know that like, hey, like I had someone walk up to me. They're like, hey, is it true that you like sit on a cooler for dinner? I'm like, yeah, that is true. They're like, do you want a chair? I'm like, no, that's all right. Like I'm good. The cooler's pretty good. Like I can use it when I need to. It's actually, it's the cooler that I had in college. I don't know if you remember that cooler.
No,
It's
yeah, I
the
remember
blue and white one.
the red cooler. Oh, the blue and white.
That's a blue and white one.
Did you
Yeah.
didn't you have a red cooler too? Or was that your dad's cooler?
Well, these are all my parents' coolers, but now
Okay.
they're now they're now our seating arrangement. But like I told you, I'm like I got a free mattress from work, right? Like it was a nice like Tempur-Pedic, whatever, and I got the mattress. And I was like, I learned from college experience. I was like, especially if I have people over, I'm like, I need to have a bed frame. I need to not look gross. Um, but I told them straight up, I was like, guys, if you guys didn't give me that mattress, I know you guys are crapping on sure that's it's for the kitchen set and everything. I would still be borrowing my roommate's air mattress. Right? Like, it's just I'm just so against owning things because like, yeah, I have a truck, but like when I go off to law school, I'm gonna have to like rent a U-Haul to move everything back home. That's
Yeah.
that just seems like a hassle to me.
And what's your living situation going to be in college? Are you gonna live on the dorms again? Or are you gonna
No,
find a place to rent?
I'm gonna find a place. That's kind of why like something like UVA or Michigan or something sounds nice because I'll just have. I think something like we had in college, would sound nice to me. I could have my own things, have
Hmm.
have my own spot. Um, but I think I'll feel more comfortable then because it'll be like 3 years, right? Like so, like I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna be here for that'll be the most extended period of time I've been somewhere since undergrad.
Hmm.
So I'll feel a little more established, but I don't know. It's just I do hope I grow out of that mindset, but at the same time, I feel like I feel pretty healthy with that mindset. But a lot of
Yeah,
people
I feel
disagree.
like no, I agree. Like it's you don't need a chair if you have a cooler. Like I get you're kind of
That one that one is not a hill I'm willing to die on, right? Like that is fully I fully recognize the absurdity of like my living situation with that one. I I will when someone comes at me for that one, I do not defend it. I'm like, you
but
are
that's
right.
but okay. But let's think about it. It's only for when you're sitting down and eating. You eat pretty fast. You're only there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's like at
Yeah.
most what half an hour a day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. You can sit on a cooler for 30 minutes. Yeah, I do more than that when I go tailgating.
Yeah, I mean, like my room, I've got a decent, little Amazon desk, a little like nice little office chair. I sit there more often, or like my bed. It's a nice little setup. Like that's kind of what I was getting at with like the things I use often, or um or like use on a day-to-day basis. I like to have nice things. But if it's a dinner table, dinner chair, whatever. I'll use a folding table. I'll sit on a cooler. That doesn't bother me
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much.
Go sit on a cooler. No, you definitely need no, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that current living situation because living that minimalist lifestyle is I don't know. I think it's important for some people because just with time and as you get older, you just accumulate stuff. And then when you realize that you have a moment where you can just be like, "Oh, I don't need all of this stuff anymore. Like I can live a happy life without it." I feel like that's a kind of an important lesson to prevent you from just becoming a person that not necessarily like hoarder-ish, but just has too much stuff and doesn't really know what to do with it. And you're okay with just getting rid of things that you don't use. Because the amount of houses that I've seen that just have people that have accumulated stuff over the years that serve no purpose and that's just like sitting in a dark, dusty attic and no one's looked at it for 30 years is that's way too common.
Yeah, I think that if I were to choose one end of the spectrum, it's definitely the minimalist side, right? Like I think that yes, there's issues with it. Yes, no one respects me when they walk into my house, but like
What do you what do you need respect for? Respect's overrated.
that's kind of what I told someone, like not like kind of jokingly, defensively, but
At,
like
at
I
least
was
it's clean.
yeah, it's clean. I don't
I would respect you significantly less if you had like stuff and it was just like a complete disorganized mess. Like if I walk into your house and I just don't see very much, I'm just like, whatever, no big deal.
yeah, everyone who walks into my house assumes I'm moving out pretty soon. That's the that's the assumption. At least they don't think like, oh, this guy moved in 2 months. I
Yeah,
think that's worse.
yeah. It's like, oh, you brought everything with you. You brought things that you haven't seen, you haven't looked at, and I've noticed that I've done that with books. Like sometimes I'll just bring books along that I've already read, just to like throw around as like decoration pieces, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I've already read these books. I'm not going to read them again anytime in the future. But a part of me, this is the only thing that I want to collect more than like I'm not a things person, but I do like books, and I like the idea of having like a big bookshelf in my house of just like a collection of everything that I've ever read. I think that's kind of cool.
I like the aesthetic of like having a library or having like an
Yeah,
office that's a library. Like I think that's a
yeah, just having an entire wall with like wood paneling and just a book, yeah, like a full-on bookshelf with everything that you've read. That's a cool aesthetic.
no. Oh yeah. So going off your like the the bookcase statement, that's kind of what that's kind of why I've been trying to get back into the library thing. And I think that was an excuse I was trying to use for a little bit, where I was like, oh, like I've been reading, I have nowhere, I don't want to like lug around 20 books whenever I move, but like um because I do own some books, right? And I own a lot more at home. Like I do have a full bookshelf, like my childhood bookshelf that like I've got a ton of books. But like it is harder when you don't have, like I said, when you're not established, when you don't have that space for it. Because it like especially like you said, you're in a transient stage or whatever. It's hard to be like, I'm going to go to this clinic for 2 to 3 months and bring 15 books with me. Or like that. Like that's a
Yeah.
the for me, they don't really make the cut for taking up half my suitcase and like 45 pounds.
No, no. I've gotten better. I now just bring 5 books with the intention of reading all 5, but I only read like one, one and a half maybe if I'm lucky. Just like, oh yeah, I've got 2 months. I'll have so much free time to read, and then I'll just do like 10 pages a night sometimes, and that roughly gets me to about a book by the end of the 2 months.
That is the nice thing about like the library thing though, because I also felt the same way, right? Like I'd pick up a book, or I'd have someone lend me a book, and I'd like take forever to read it. Like back in the day, obviously I read much faster, or like when you let me the Jordan Peterson, I was reading more often. But like I found that ever since I checked out 3 books from the library, they're like, you have 3 weeks to read this. I was like, oh, 3 weeks, no problem. I ate through the first two. Like I got two the inheritance books and then one of the Mao Zedong like history books. And I was like, so I ate through the first two really quick. Fiction, fantasy, whatever, no problem. Like I can blitz through pretty quick and like get the story. Especially since I read it before, I can kind of glaze over like the environment setting or like the weather paragraphs. But like reading the history book, I was like, holy crap. It is nice to have like a deadline almost. Like, yeah, I can extend or whatever, but having the deadline's kind of nice 'cause I'm like, okay, I do have to like make some pace, and it makes me be like, I got to sit down and just read this book for an hour and a half tonight, 2 hours
Yeah,
tonight. And I've
yeah.
been
I
building up
I
that
have got
endurance.
like it's something that you want to read, but it's also a hard thing to read. That's something that I've struggled with, not struggled with necessarily, but like I've noticed where if I read harder books, I'm less likely to pick it up and just read it because the entire time I'm just thinking and like it'll take me like longer than it should, like a minute or two to like complete a page because I'm trying to like absorb the knowledge into my brain. As opposed to like if I'm reading a more fun book, I can go through like 3 or 4 pages in like a couple minutes, and it's like the time flies faster. Whereas like if I'm reading and I started picking up Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche, and that book's just hard to read. It's like hard subject matter. Or if when I was reading The Myth of Sisyphus, and like 90% of that book is just about suicide, and I'm just like, this is just a heavy book, and I don't know if I want to be reading this just like right before I go to bed. And and like I'm like annotating and like underlining certain things, and it's like I'm actively reading it, but it's exhausting. It doesn't feel that relaxing. But then when you pick up a fun book and you're just like, oh, I'm flying through this, like this, I don't really need to like pick apart every single line. I can just kind of read this for fun. It's finding that balance between like fun reading and productive reading is something that's been good for me. Because when it's only been productive reading, it becomes more exhausting and it becomes a chore as opposed to something that I enjoy to do.
So I've been like, so I'll read like an hour, hour and a half, like the history book, and like you said, it's a harder read because it's for like history especially has never been my strong suit. But I'll be reading through it and I'll get to a paragraph and I'm like, okay, it just mentioned this guy again. Completely like now I have to go back and read about this guy again, or it'll go off on a two-page long tangent about, hey, by the way, Mao Zedong was doing this thing, but also at this time this was happening and this is why this was happening. And then I'll get
Mhm.
back and so like it's a lot less linear, even if it's like chronologically written. Whereas like so I'll read like an hour, hour and a half of that at least, and then I'll be like, okay, now I can reward myself and I'll like my reward will be like I can read like a fun book, like the Aragon books. I can read for like an hour, hour and a half, and like those,
Mhm.
like I said, they blitz by. I probably spent like 2 hours, 3 hours total on this history book, and I'm probably like 50 pages in, something like that.
Yeah,
Um, Whereas like the Aragon books, they're probably what 500 pages each, and I'll get through half of them in like half of a book in 2 hours, right? Like so
yeah.
like because you can just
Because
treat
you're
it
just
like a
flipping
movie.
through, you're
Yeah,
entertained.
like
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you're doing more of a skim reading and you're getting the overall message, you just get the feeling of the book more. Whereas I feel like it's harder to get the feeling of a book for the more productive reads. Unless the only way that you can do that is if you're like soaking in every single sentence, and you don't necessarily need to do that for the fun reads.
just
So
just having
there's
that like that intent, like I need to learn this, or like
mhm,
no, not need to learn, but like I want to learn this. Like
mhm,
the objective being learning is so much different from like just being entertained. Or like that's kind of the
mhm.
same thing with like I've started agreeing with you, uh, not agreeing, but like something that I
Understanding.
understanding, I guess, that like something that you used to do that we used to get on you for was when we watch a show together, right? You'd be on your phone, you'd be kind of distracted, might miss like a dialogue or like a scene or something, and we'd like get on you for that. And like I've noticed that even when I watch shows by myself, I'm like kind of like background, and I'm like if I have like a little interesting part, I'm like oh I missed something like plot wise. Oh like rewind 10 seconds. Oh like watch it. I'm like okay cool. Like that's what I missed over. But like I definitely am less I don't know. I it's so hard for me to have like a one track mind now, right? Like the books have helped a lot. Like those I'm able to completely focus on. I just put my phone on the other side of the room, just completely focus on the book. But like I've started understanding you now when what you used to do when we watch shows or movies. I'm like I don't need to if it's for entertainment, I don't need to be 100% engaged in it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're getting the overall message, you don't need to be locked into every single word. And there's yeah. I remember when you called me out when we were watching AOT, and there was like a big reveal
That was
happening,
the
and I
big
was on
one.
my
That
phone,
was a big
and
one
you
that I was like,
and
yeah.
you were like, "Luke, did you read that?" I'm just like, "Yeah, they're kind of just like they're talking right now. They're they're on the wall and they're having a conversation about the thing that just happened, and they're just like, "No, did you read what they said?" And I'm like, "No, I was playing on my phone." And then you got pissed, and then you rewinded it, and you're just like, "This is important. Pay attention."
It was important. It was very important.
It was. I would have missed out on the dialogue, but even if I missed out on that specific dialogue, that specific scene came to fruition like 30 seconds later.
Yeah, I mean, there was a fight scene 30 seconds later, so like it's not really that important. But like, I will say that that is something that I've noticed that when I reread or rewatch things, I I pay more attention honestly than I do the first time for sure. Right? Because like I think the first time a lot of times I'm like I'm just trying to get the gist of it, just trying to get some entertainment or trying to like get the general like world building, kind of understand that. I think the value is in the second rewatch, the second reread, because like now I'm like for example with Aragon, this is probably the third time I've read through the series at least. I've probably read through it more. But I'm like, okay, I saw this prophecy that they said, and I know exactly how that goes because I know exactly what like there's there's more value to me for like paying attention on the second time because you can see a lot more of the foreshadowing. You can understand like especially like Attack on Titan, a show like that. You start seeing these little flashes of scenes. You're like, okay, I know where that's going. I know why they did that, and I think that's more
Hmm.
valuable than if you were to put all your attention on it the first watch through and not understand it. Anyways,
Hmm. I think I differ on you this a little bit because I have so much fun with like the exploration and the excitement and unraveling the mystery on the first watch through that a lot of that goes away on rewatches of shows, and that goes for like games as well. I haven't been able to like replay games because like I generally understand the story and I get progressively more bored on upon rewatches just because I'm like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen. I know the moments that come up." And I guess I'm not like as attentive, and so it's just like if I notice something that I didn't catch the first time, I'm like, oh, I guess that's kind of cool. But that level of like coolness doesn't exceed the feeling that I had the first time around.
yeah, I think that plays into like part of something that I fully recognize as weird for me. Really, like, this is something that
Yeah.
I've it's always been a weird thing that I do, even when I was a young kid reading fiction books, or whenever I'd read. honestly, Aragon was I remember doing this the first time I read through, and I do this with like most books. Um, I don't do this anymore, but as a kid, I used to like start a book. I get a little few chapters in. I'd flip to the last chapter and like kind of read a few pages, and then flip back.
No,
So
no.
like that's the same thing with like movies and shows too. Like I'll like a lot of times I'll be watch as I'm watching it, I'll like look up the plot. I'm like reading it. I'm like, okay, I just want to make sure I understand it fully. And like I don't really I think you know this about me. I don't care about spoilers. Or like a lot of people are like, oh, this might I truly do not care about spoilers. Because for me the fun is in like the experience of the watching, still the character development, the cinematography, all that. The
Mhm.
plot is cool and if it's well written, but like the surprise factor is not exactly what I care about as much. Games I
Yeah,
will agree with you on. I've never been able to replay a game. Like it's just
yeah.
once I finish the storyline of a single player game, it's a lot for me to be like I want to do that exact same thing 50 hours
Again.
again. Like
Yeah.
but shows and movies and books, I think just not caring about spoilers and like for example, you could tell me how a show plays out, right? Like the full show, be like, hey, this is exactly the plot from beginning to end. I could be okay, cool. Now I want to see it unravel. Or
Hmm.
I think that's seeing
You're
it
more
on
interested in the you're more interested in the journey as opposed to the end destination.
yeah, the end destination. I can know where something's going, but I think the journey is more fun because like even if you spoil like, hey, this guy dies or whatever in a show, I'm like, okay, yeah, like sometimes I will say deaths a little bit more. I'm like would be there is a cool factor to like not having that spoiled,
Yeah,
but
having the shock value of a death scene can be
yeah,
more impactful if you don't see it coming.
but like I still think that in general the seeing how it plays out, seeing how the characters interact, like that's something that doesn't really get spoiled. Like, and I think that that's something that I value more in media. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, hmm. What's been going on in the world? Oh, I've been getting hit by a lot of American propaganda recently, and I've been absolutely loving it.
so you texted me, but I didn't open it up yet.
Basically, the message
I
was about
I heard about
it
this.
starts
Was this the hockey game? I heard about this at dinner. Someone talked about it.
Yeah, yeah. This was the hockey game. There was just like crazy fights going on, but the montage isn't about the hockey game at all. It's really just like um, there's there's music, there's rock and roll music going on in the background, and it's just a montage of like America's best moments. And I'm just like, damn, we're so back. We're so back, baby. And I've been seeing so much of it recently. I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. This is the America I love, where we're just like so patriotic. Like I get that we have our faults and we have like things that are wrong, but I love just seeing people like proud of the country that we're from, even with all of its faults.
I've been getting propaganda on the other side. Just obviously, maybe the military algorithm that seeps into
Yeah,
me. But like I've been seeing like probably 5 to 10 different videos now in the past month that'll just be like a video of a pilot. Just sometimes it's training, but like sometimes it's like actually like combat or whatever, just
yeah.
launching missiles or just mowing down an area. Like I'm like, oh, that was sick. And then everyone in the comments is like, wow, like I want to join now. Like it'll be things like that. But like it is cool to see. Like I mean, it's kind of what we talked about years ago, and I'm sure we've mentioned it somewhat recently. But like the whole pendulum swinging kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? Like it's just the equal and opposite reaction kind of thing, where it's like there was so much. I think there's been so much anti-America within America. Um, and obviously, when I say America, I mean the United States because everyone means the United States when they say America. So,
Of course.
so you can get your panties out of a wad. Um, but
Off of America, baby.
but they like I think that that's swinging back so hard, right? Because we have so much anti-American sentiment now that like the silent majority or like the people who are really on the patriotism, the nationalist kind of side, seeing that come back up or like seeing that pride is cool. Like regardless of political affiliation, obviously we know which sides are doing what, like all that.
Yeah,
I don't need to get
yeah,
into
yeah.
that, but like regardless of political affiliation, it's cool to just see like America edits or like
Yeah,
America
America
music
edits
video.
are so cool. It's so much fun. I want to see more of it. I'm here for it. We've been told that America is such a it's a terrible place. Nobody should live here. That's just one, not true. America is probably one of the best places in the world to live. And yes, we do have our problems, but every other country also has their problems. And I think we should embrace those issues and work on solutions to make this to continue to be the best country with through and all of our faults. Um, yeah, I'm here for it. I want to see more people proud of the country that they're in. 'Cause that's something that I've noticed when I was doing a decent amount of like international travel, is that every other country was just proud of their country. Like I went to like Ecuador and Canada, and they were just like they were proud to be where they're from. And maybe that's the disconnect between being online and seeing people in person. But like I just feel like the pride in America just hasn't been here for like six to 10 years. Like
The,
we saw a lot of pride after 9/11 once we got into war, and that kind of like brought everybody in the United States together. And then the longer that we stayed in the war, and the rise of um, kind of the progressive side of people pointing out the flaws in the American system, which obviously there are numerous flaws as we are seeing um, being exposed now. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's nice to have a little bit of cognitive dissonance with um, the country that you're from, and you should be like you can't agree with everything that the government's doing, but you can be proud of the idea of what America stands for.
yeah, I touching on your point of like international travel. That's something that I've seen a little bit in Europe, but also I think as you were talking about the pride in the country, maybe this is a little bit more just sports people are being interested, but like seeing videos of like like you in the UK or like people in the stands at like at like a football game or whatever, they're just
Yeah.
all chanting this like pre-rehearsed like 30 stanza chant. I'm like that is
Oh
such
yeah.
like a cool like unity kind of thing. Like that's I mean yeah, it's like they're for their team, but like it does feel like a nationalist kind of like just pride
But like
in who they are.
they're representing their team from a specific country, so it ends up being like a competitive like country versus country, not in a like a military sense, but in a sporting sense. It's a you versus them mentality, which is I think very cool for sports.
Yeah, I think that's part of why I'm obviously Spence said before, I'm not and both of us are not into like keeping up with sports or like competitive sports or whatever. But like, I definitely, even though I don't watch the Olympics, I would care way more, and I'd watch the Olympics to be like, yeah, like it's the U.S. We're gonna stomp every other country, right? Like that. To me,
Yeah,
that is way more of like a draw, or there's way more at stake emotionally than for me when people are like, oh, like my team uh, my state is better than yours, or like my area of this state because my college, which is 2 hours away from yours. Yeah, that's what I'm going to take pride in. Is like even though
yeah,
we're functionally the exact same people because we all went to the same high schools. You're going to a college two hours away. I'm gonna take pride in like that. That is way less meaningful for me than the country, the nationalist kind of pride.
yeah. But I don't know. Another thing to think about is like if you're in Europe, some of the size and population of some of the countries in Europe are smaller than that of some U.S. states.
Yeah, but like you don't. I, I don't know. I think the big pride still comes from
I
like
think
the
there's a history component. So like we've only been around for a couple of years. European countries have been, or and people that have lived there have been around for centuries, thousands of years.
you do see it with. I've told people I'm like anyone who's Chinese and grew up Chinese, like or like around the culture a little bit with like Chinese parents, even in the States, has heard the saying that like every every single Chinese parent will say 5,000 years of history. That's like China's thing, right? Like every single Chinese person will be like, We have 5,000 years of history." Chinese like that's like the whole big thing, right? And like obviously there's with Cultural Revolution, like CCP, all that, like Taiwan, like there's a lot more now, um, kind of division and a lot of views on that, but yeah, I think you're spot on with like the history aspect. Just being like, we've been here for hundreds to thousands of years. Um, we are better than you. And I think like yes, people can I understand I can understand the complaint that people have against nationalism, right? Like and it's weird that that's it's weird that nationalism is portrayed as like an evil term now, right? Like that that's kind of an oddity to me. Is that the term
I think
nationalism is seen as like extremist? Like that's not
yeah,
an extremist concept.
yeah, you want the best for your country. You want the best for where you live and where you're growing up, where your family's going to be growing up. Of course, that doesn't feel like a terrible take. Is that you want to live in a better place to raise your family and grow your community. That doesn't feel like that absurd. But I think people get confused about like the idea of like nationalism versus like and patriotism versus the like the acts that the government is doing, because like the government is different than feeling like a sense of pride for being an American, for being from the United States. I feel like that's very I think those are two very different things.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of
Like
the
it's like the idea of something as opposed to the actual function and form.
I think that's something that a lot of people had issues coming to terms with when like let's say 2016 or 2020 like election years when they would a lot of issues were like with the flag or like the national anthem and
Yeah.
and people would be like oh like you know this flag or this national anthem stands for like the government being corrupt, it stands for uh all these bad things the government does, all the actions the government's taken. But like I remember this was like 2016, I saw some video and it was I truly can't remember who it was now, but they were like no like that the flag is not the guy who happens to be the commander in chief at the time. It's the flag representing the promise of America and
Yeah,
what
the
America was.
idea of America.
Yeah, like it was even like the founding fathers knew it was a flawed concept coming into it, but they were like, "Hey, we're going to try to be better." I think trying to be better is the at the crux of it, and I think that a lot of people can't separate what we are now versus, "Hey, there's pride in being who we are now because we're trying to be better."
Hmm. And that we can change and that we can be better and that we're not a dictatorship and we're not a monarchy, and then we can allow people to come in and change, and that we as a country can change, and we're a country built upon change, and that's cool, and freedom and the pursuit of freedom and the pursuit of happiness, that's what the country's founded upon, and that's what I want to see continued. And yeah, we're going to take missteps. Nobody's perfect, no government system is perfect, but making steps in that right direction is what I want to see, and that's what I'm here for. I want to be American, proud to be an American.
I was going to say when you said the patriotism, like that kind of patriotism has gone away. I was going to say like Toby Keith patriotism.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, just like unbridled, just pride of the country that you're in. Just happy to be here. Us
yeah,
versus the world, baby.
I, and like that's I'm pretty sure I brought this up on a previous podcast, but when I was talking to one of the guys at work, he was like, "Yeah, like if another country wanted to beat America, they all they would have to do is leave us alone, right? Like America in general, like, how it's built is we have so many different people, so many different like cultural identities that in general we don't do well eating or like if we're looking for conflict, we're gonna find it within ourselves, and we're gonna eat ourselves alive, right? But like
Hmm.
that's I think above all, like against compared with any other country, America does the best when like existential crisis, like when we have an external enemy, like America has the most pride in itself as soon as there's someone else. As soon as there's
Yeah,
team A and team B, America wins, right? Like
yeah,
regardless of
yeah. America does win, and we will continue to win. Yeah, it's the whole idea of just splitting up and causing conflict among your own people. That and that's the downfall of a lot of countries. Is you get opposing ideologies that lead to conflict internally. It creates a weakened system, and from that weakened system, other countries can either affect it or come in or take over or impose their theories.
I mean that's what we see, but like obviously I am very, ignorant of the goings on in Europe like compared to someone who actually is from here or lives here. But like Europe's not really doing well. Like it's a lot of
Yeah, what's
European
going on
countries
with the
aren't doing too well.
what's going on with the what's going on with the price of the euro right now?
Yeah,
It's tanking. What's
which I'm
going
happy
on?
about. I'm happy about because I'm using the euro right now. But but
Wait,
like,
that's not. Wait, why is that good for you? That's not good for you.
well, yeah, no, it's good because the American dollar has more buying power, so I can buy more with our
So
currency.
you can use your. Okay, I see.
I can buy more here. Um, but yeah, like I'll say news, and it's like stabbings in every single European country ever, every single day. There's 20 of them, and I'm like, that's this continent is in trouble right now. You know, like and it's funny. I talked to someone else from another guy from work. He was like, he was I guess he told me he was at a bar at an Irish bar in the UK. And he was saying, he was like, yeah, like I ran into a bunch of people from different European countries, and they all asked me as like the only American. They were like, yeah, like does everyone in America hate each other? Like every single person, like, and he's like, well, like if you listen to the news, yeah, it sounds like every single person hates each other. But like the news is going to tell you that the other side is completely evil, and that everyone's a Hitler or a Stalin or a Mao, and um, everyone's evil, and we all want to kill each other. But like in general, most of us are. I'd say the rational American person still realizes, hey, we're not perfect. We'll never be perfect, but we're better than you. You know, like, and I think that's a cool mindset to have.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's just the issue of always being online and only listening to news and only being on Twitter and getting all of your feed online is that you don't see reality and you hear that everybody hates each other, but then I can just go someplace and talk to people, talk to strangers. That's what I did all weekend was just talk to strangers, and not a single bad interaction with anybody. Like it was all just like fun and getting to know people, and like I feel like the corrupt news outlets are just trying to breed conflict when there's no conflict to be talked about, or they're brewing conflict when there's for things that don't need to be like they're turning anthills into mountains for a lot of issues and then ignoring mountains completely, if that makes any sense.
Something that
Or they're
that's a
yeah
big proponent of that is like one something I think Aiden sent me. I'm sure you've seen it. I'll see pop-ups of, you know, I think generally people know what side politically, you know, I lean, right? But like it's just to kind of play the other side. I'll see a lot of more conservative or right wing outlets. They've been like being like, hey, like, you know, the left is supporting this Luigi Mangione guy. They like murder and all that. I'm like, it's not just the left. Like there's a lot of it, like you said, it's media outlets playing each other on people on each
no,
other.
the only people on the left that like that dude are the girls that find him attractive.
Well, but like outside of that, they'll be like, hey, like they're celebrating murder. This guy was a good guy. All this. I'm like, okay, there's this is not a left
Define
versus right thing. This is a class. This is a class thing. This
yeah.
is an inherently a class issue, and like that's when I saw them like trying to trash it out.
Cirque French Revolution
Yeah, and like
type of vibes.
they're trying to turn it into a political left right thing. I'm like, you lose my respect when you turn a yeah, I'm not defending his actions. I'm not saying that one was right, one was just, or what, or like this is exactly how it should go. But like when you, because it is belittling the issue. I think when you belittle the issue down to left and right, you,
Yeah.
it's either you don't see. It's one of two things. Either you're ignorant and you don't see what's actually going on, which I think is
Hmm.
worse, or you're maliciously trying to support the interest of like healthcare, big CEO, like big corporations. Like
Hmm.
that's something that's bugged me is that when people take these issues and they're like, oh, it's the left that's saying this, it's the right that's saying this. I'm like, no, no, it's most Americans that are saying this. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was the whole thing with I got to read more into this whole situation, but like the Occupy Wall Street thing,
Hmm.
right? Like I think I saw something about like yeah, like when Occupy Wall Street was going on, um, it was you know like it became a class issue, right? It's the less versus the people that have more. And then the people that have more kind of realize like, hey, we can just turn race into a thing. And now race is like so much more contentious now than it was in the 90s
Yeah.
because they realize they're like, hey, like we can just play on everyone else and they'll leave the rich alone and we can make the poor's fight it out.
Make the poor war. That's what it became. I don't know. I have I have opinions. I have opinions on the class structure. And I'm really excited to see what the outcome of the Department of Government Efficiency, what that's going to become, because they've, with the recent scandal that they unraveled with the USAID situation, USAID. Have you heard about that?
I don't know about the scandal. I know what USAID is. I know it's like the foreign giving money to foreign countries essentially, but I don't know about the scandal.
So the scandal is essentially is that we were giving away millions upon billions of dollars with a B to other countries for like left-leaning things. So like millions of dollars going to LGBTQ rights in like Zimbabwe. Millions of dollars for like a gay theater production in some developing country. And for developing another one was like developing electric car charging spots upwards of like $3 billion, of which there are 19 spots that have been created to charge your car. So there's like an obvious like money laundering scheme going on, because a lot of the projects that have been funded for and have been given money for millions of billions of dollars aren't producing the things that they said they would be producing. So it makes you wonder where that money's going. And they were doing this through like a very complex scheme of like they would give this money to this company, the company would give the money somewhere else, and then the money would go somewhere else, and it would be like all circular. And the issue now is trying to figure out who ended up with the money, because it's not going to the projects that they said they were going to, and the project that they said they were going to were kind of like just bullshit things that didn't need funding for. Like the last thing that you need is in a developing country is like LGBTQ rights. They have other issues they have issues on the hierarchical scale of needs, the Maslow's hierarchical scale of needs. These people need food, they need shelter, they need water, they need things that they need to survive. LGBTQ rights are something that you get. That's it's more of a privilege to be worried about those things, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is life or death. And I think sending money for like a gay dance theater in a developing country is just a waste of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, I will say I know people have their thoughts on Trump or Elon or like however it's like I don't I haven't kept enough tabs on to like make an educated statement or even want to take a side because God knows I don't want to take a side on that. Um, but like that is something that is coming out of it, just the Doge and like the whole exposing the government spending. That like it's crazy that and I do think I think it's a propaganda. I think it's a misinformation. I think it's a media outlet playing for the man kind of thing, playing
Hmm.
for their own interests. But like that should not be a contentious issue. Like it should not be a contentious issue that like, hey, let's look at what we're spending money on, what we're spending our money, your money on, and evaluate whether or not it's worth it. Um,
Hmm.
it's that's why like that is something that annoys me when like there will be people that the common person, the average voter, and they'll be like, hey, the media told me that they're doing this bad thing with the government, they're shutting down all these programs. Um, and I'm not saying I'm sure there have been some that actually have been detrimental or maybe have or maybe are too extreme or whatever. But an audit, then checking to see that we're not spending money on wasteful projects should not be a political issue.
No,
That
that should be a bipartisan issue, because it makes me so upset when we start sending money for things like that, but then our own states, when we have Maui that had one of the worst wildfires of all time, just completely devastate the area, and it receives very little in terms of government funding. Like, give everybody that suffered those wildfires, give them the money they need to rebuild on the land, rebuild their houses. In California, the same way. Like they had, like, yeah, whatever, it was mismanaged, but like those people shouldn't have to suffer for government incompetence.
Yeah, I
Like we
just
should be helping out our citizens first, as opposed to giving billions of dollars for projects that aren't producing one any revenue and two aren't helping out anybody.
in 2023, $71.9 billion went to foreign aid, whereas uh, I'm looking at right now it's 2.5 billion, I think was proposed for the LA fires. Like,
Yeah.
which is in absolute insanity, right? Like you got people who lost their entire lives. I mean, people that lost their lives, but people who like everything they ever owned burned down, and were more worried about the rest of the world, the world police kind of thing. And it's yeah, I've heard people talk about like, hey, San Diego or LA or whatever. There's people just defecating on the streets, and I'm like, that seems
Mhm.
like a much larger issue than than like you said, having a theater built in a developing country or electrical charging spots, 19 electrical car charging spots. Like that. I
So
Good.
this is at USAID. This is from the WhiteHouse.gov. Waste and abuse runs deep. Few examples of waste and abuse. There was $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. $70,000 for production of a DI musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. Um, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt. 2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. Um,
For This is obviously a smaller figure, but I just pulled it up as well. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia.
yeah,
Like absolute insanity. That like people
these are tax dollars. These are American tax dollars.
hundreds of millions of dollars to fund irrigation for poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan.
Yeah. So, wow. I wonder what they're making.
Yeah,
Heroin. That's the only thing that grows there. Poppy seed. Come on, hundreds of $1 millions to fund irrigation. Okay, so yeah, that's one that you just read. Hundreds of thousands to meals that went to Al Qaeda affiliated fighters in Syria. We're funding our enemies, David.
I mean we've not. I can't remember if I sent you the video. It was I'll send it to you again if I haven't. But it was like some military. I made a video, and it was like Department of Defense budget is whatever for. It was like something like 849 billion or something, right? Like, and then there was a joke about like, yeah, but they'll tank your credit score if you fail to make a $20 payment on your credit card that they make you get. But we'll leave billions and billions of dollars of equipment, like helicopters with the keys left in the ignition for the Taliban. And that's no problem, right? Like that's
Yeah,
I
a terrible pullout, a, a travesty.
yeah, I just think that like there's it just really sucks that a lot of people just can't or won't. I think it's a willing ignorance or like a willful ignorance, just like they just don't want to. They're too willing to play into the identity politics to just put that aside and be like, hey, as a human being, as a U.S. citizen who pays taxes,
Hmm.
should I be more worried about this?
Yeah, I would be concerned. I don't know. It's very interesting because we know there's just sludge in the government and ways to make it more efficient and decrease taxpayer dollars, which would, or not, yeah, decrease the amount that we're spending, which in turn could potentially decrease taxes overall, and hopefully see more of that revenue be applied internally so that we can see growth and development within our own country. I I don't know. I hope it's good. I'm kind of scared about the because they're gonna dig deep into like Medicare and Medicaid because I know that's like big on the fraud list in the future. That's gonna be the next project that they're gonna tackle. I'm just scared because that's how I get paid. I get paid through Medicare. One of my sources of income.
You know, I don't know. I was originally considering. I think I talked to you about this going into like DOJ or something after law school or like federal. I'm like, it's just. I tell people, I'm like, the nice thing about the military is I've realized I'm like, I kind of don't want any. Like, I'm sure there's bad things going on, and I'm sure like there needs to be people who fix it. I'm like, this is selfish of me, but I'm like, I don't. It's such a mess. I don't want to be the one who deals with it.
No. Yeah, good luck trying to make any change. I mean, it's I feel like it's hard to do make change within the government, especially if you're not in a position of power.
Yeah, if you're not in the three branches, the top, like who cares? And like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Become a congressman? Oh, you're one of you're a couple hundred people. Good luck making a change. Oh, you're a senator? You're one of 100 people. You could be like, and those are like prestigious places. Those are prestigious positions.
I mean, it's like any corruption, right? Like whether it be in law enforcement, foreign countries, politics. Like one person is not enough to make a change. One person at the top, maybe, right? Like one person, like if you have a few people at the top who are willing to actually fight down and make a change, yeah, maybe. But like one person in the system is not able to make a change. So you either. So I don't. I do vehemently dislike anyone who buys into it and like just plays along with the system and is like kind of supports it. But at the same time, like, what are you gonna do, right? Like, you're in that position. I kind of get it, right? Like you're in that position.
Yeah.
You either take the money and you run with it, or you don't take the money and nothing happens. So
You got to
like,
have the cognitive dissonance to understand that you're either going to fight it and try to make a change or just accept it, because if you at least accept it, you're not just going to be upset the entire time at your job, just wishing that you had a different job. Because that would suck. Going into work every day, not truly believing what you're working for, and you're just going in and getting a paycheck. That doesn't sound like too much fun.
I'd say that's probably a good chunk of the workforce, though. I'd say
I
I'd
got,
say
I've got, um, there was $20 million for Sesame Street to be produced in Iraq
$20 million.
for Sesame Street.
Yeah, I
Okay, so I'm gonna read the fact check by the New York Times here. What does it say? Give me the article. Stop. Give me the. Okay, come on. You're gonna put it at the very bottom. It was not to create a new program, but to tailor an existing children's show called Sim Sim for local audiences. Why are we giving $20 million to Iraq for a show? Why, Dave? How does that benefit the U.S., Dave?
that is the problem, though, right? Like, it's going back to kind of the patriotism argument and talking about um kind of what we stand for and what we're aiming for. Like, that is always the roughest part about being an American and supporting it is seeing your government just just absolutely not have the interest of the American people in mind, right? Like that, it's kind of like you said, going to work every day and not agreeing with what you're working for. Um,
Mm-hmm.
being an American every day and seeing and hearing about this stuff coming out and seeing your government actively work against your own people, like
But
that's a
that's what
hard
I
thing to
enjoy about
stomach.
this. It's like I am upset that our government did these things, but I'm glad that it's been brought to light, and it seems like there's going to be a change implemented to avoid some of this unnecessary spending in the future.
It just sucks that it feels like it's not a bipartisan like effort. Like I really hope that this effort. I don't care what people think like on either side of the spectrum, right? Like if you don't think this is a good idea, you're insane. Right, straight up. Like if you don't think that auditing the government and deciding whether or not we should be spending money on these crazy things is a good idea, like you're insane, right? So like
Yeah.
So
If you're going to get audited for your taxes, the government should be audited for what they're spending your tax money on.
yeah, and
That's completely logical. Like if the government's gonna get pissed and they will have the potential of auditing you if you give more than $500 via Venmo, you should be upset when they just give billions of dollars to a foreign country and not understanding where that money's going.
I hope
That
it
is a,
doesn't go.
that is a no-brainer.
It's an
That is a not that's a bipartisan issue. That is both sides should be pissed about that.
and I hope it's an initiative that like doesn't go like you can say what you want about actual results or actions taken or whatever, but like this initiative to do it, I hope that auditing and checking our spending and checking what the government's actually doing behind the scenes, I really hope that doesn't go away in
Yeah.
the next 4 years. I really hope like this is something that like we continue forward. That's a wishful thinking maybe, but
Yeah.
um,
You know what I'm going
that
to
is my
do,
hope for the
Dave?
future.
I want this corruption to keep on going because I'm going to be following exclusively Nancy Pelosi's um, stock picks. Because let's see, I just want to stock tracker. How much has she made? Profit. Okay. Uh, there's like complete companies or complete websites now just talking about Nancy Pelosi's trading activity.
Estimated net worth 271 million. The Nancy Pelosi strategy has returned 800%.
Yeah, that feels fishy.
Yeah, there's a lot of uh, the good thing coming out of it is that the patriotism. I hope that I hope America edits keep happening. Maybe that'll at least make
I
it
do
easier to
too.
stomach.
I do too. Um, okay, I've got one more thought for you. What's your opinion on government workers, the government worker buyout program that's going on right now? Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I get probably 10 emails a day talking about people not related to me, but about the program. I think it is a very good thing. It is s- the government, civilians, and government contractors and all that. As someone who's, don't get me wrong, there have been a handful that do their best. They actually try to do a good job. But as someone who has seen just a handful of them, there are so many of them sitting in a job either that they're not qualified for, don't care about, are bad at, or they just straight up aren't needed. Um, and yeah, I think people don't understand that people on the that's what bothers me the most too is when people on the outside, right? It's one thing to be like a civilian, and I'm sure that there's plenty of civilian workers who like do their jobs well, right? And they worked for it. Because retirement, yeah, it sucks if you like get taken out of a job for whatever, right? Like if you actually are a good worker, there's plenty of them that can go. Um, and I think that I think it's a good initiative, just based off anecdotal experience. Uh, there's a lot of waste going on in that field. I think that
Yeah.
you could sure you could cut it down to half, and things would still run pretty well.
Do you think it would run better?
From a cost perspective, like per dollar spent, yes, absolutely. Abs- like it's like yeah, it's like there'd be some like there's growing pains, but like if I think people just don't realize like how the level of work to like money spent versus in the civilian world. Where like in the civilian world, you're paid for what you're worth, right? Like if you're not worth what you're paid less or you're gone. In the government world, you hit a certain level. I heard GS 15 is like the high, I believe it's like the highest civilian rate outside of like the executive schedule, like the um assistant sec dev or outside of the executive schedule. GS 15 is like the highest you're paid, right? It's equivalent of like a high level like flag officer in the military. and there was an '06, which like '06 to '06, you're probably in the military for like 20 years at least. Um, and I had heard the guy had said it is much easier for me to be fired than any GS-15. He's like I can be relieved the next day for something I did. GS-15 is basically like a professor with tenure. Like you can't get rid of them. And like there there's plenty that like there's one that I have experience with just like terrible, terrible, awful, awful person, bad at their job. Just straight up I'll say it. I don't really care. But like that just can't be fired. Like straight up, that's just not how the system works. And I think
Hmm.
that it'll do wonders to just at least like yeah, it's like you might have to bring people back. You might realize that cut too far, but to clean house, I very much agree with cleaning house starting from scratch because
Yeah.
the system is so bloated. There's so many people just sitting in jobs, just collecting the check. People that don't show up to work, just collecting the check, basically.
Yeah, there was like some crazy statistic where the vast majority of federal civilian workers don't show up to work. Most of their work is done at home or online.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, that's fine, but and if you have a position that requires very little effort and you can just work from home, that would be kind of cool. That's like the like I would love that. I mean, I think everybody would love that, but I feel like it's almost unfair for everybody else that is working really hard and that has to go in for 40 hours a week and has to be in person and they're kind of getting the shaft everywhere else, and then you have this person not working making more than them and they can just work from home, so they don't even have to bullshit in the office anymore. They can just be like, oh, I'll send a couple emails in the morning and then hang out all day and then check my emails before I get off at lunch and then check emails again before I get off of work. And
That's
that's
the
kind of
thing.
like
That's why everyone's so mad
that's their
about it. It's
dream.
because government jobs. I think everyone knows this. I don't think it's an unknown. Government jobs. Yes, you take a pay cut, but the quality of life. It is the dream. Like the amount, the quantity of work a government civilian has to do versus their counterpart in the civilian side. Oh my God, right? Like it's night and day, right? And the quantity of work, the job security, like yeah, maybe a little bit of a pay cut, but like it's it like you said, it is the dream job. That's a lot of people. Their entire goal is to end up just working for the federal government, working for the state government or something, because
Hmm.
it's cake. You're collecting money
Yeah.
versus the civilian world,
Yeah, you
which
get one of those like niche administrative positions where you just have a meeting once a week, and as long as you're answering a couple of emails and you're filling out the appropriate Excel documents that takes you an hour to complete, you're sitting okay.
yeah, I fully agree with that initiative. That is something that I can at least speak on that one and the foreign spending one. Those are good initiatives to
Yeah,
to start.
yeah. I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see a debt-free America. That would be kind of cool.
Well, we're not going to see
That'd
that
be
in our
like,
lifetimes, but
you don't think so? You
uh,
don't think if we make the appropriate, like, what's our debt right now? Isn't it like 36 trillion? Let's check. U.S. debt clock. Yes, 36 trillion. Oh, this is a fun game. Look how much money they're getting from taxes. So each citizen owes the government $107,000.
I think it's doable, right? But I think it's doable in a world
Wait,
where
wait, there's a
these
Doge clock on here. How are they calculating that? Are those policies actively in play?
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a doable thing. I don't think it's impossible, but it's like a wishful thinking thing where like these initiatives need to be continued and they need to actually be given attention. Right? Like we need people to actually care and actually do something about it. That's the only way we don't spend the rest of the America doesn't spend the rest of its existence in debt.
Should Doge audit the Federal Reserve? Yes. All government programs need to be audited. That should not be a hard take.
Yeah.
If your citizens are getting audited, the government should be audited. Okay, this clock's kind of cool. I just I see numbers go up and down.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, right? Like I think at the end of the day, I'm an American. I have hope for us, and I think that we can strive for greatness. But I'm hopeful with the caveat of, with my limited 24 years of experience, I don't I don't have high hopes, but I think it can
No,
be
I
done.
don't either. I don't either. Charitable donations per adult. Okay, so the average salary in the U.S. is $70,000. That feels high-ish.
I thought average was like 60, 50. I thought it was like 55-ish.
I think that's Indiana. That's an Indiana
Um,
average. State debt. The state has $1 trillion in debt. Oh well. World debt clocks. Let's see who's cooking. Oh yeah, we have the most. We have the most by a lot. Holy shit.
no, but it's fine. We'll just keep giving all their money for free,
Okay, we'll just keep printing more money. It'll be okay.
and we'll give it to everyone else that we owe debt.
Is there anybody in the positive? No one's positive. Not a single country is positive.
Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever. Anyways, what a way to end it, talking about the fall of the modern world and how everybody owes everybody else money. How does it? That doesn't make any sense. How does everybody owe somebody money?
Because everyone is lying and every government is lying to you. And
Who's profiting? Who? why, why is nobody? Why does nobody have a surplus? What's going on?
Nancy Pelosi. Everyone owes Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, all government workers, all government workers that have what? How many figures is that? 9 figures. They're corrupt.
All government workers are corrupt, including me.
Sigh, including you. Yeah. Uh-oh, Dave, you're gonna get an audit here soon.
Yeah, they're gonna. That's gonna be a problem for me.
Yeah, it's over for you. Alright, you got anything else?
No, that's it. What a way to end it.
Alright,
But
what a way.
if anyone has any thoughts on roommates or the world debt clock, feel free to let us know in the comments. Now
Yeah,
that we've
like,
started up,
subscribe.
now that we've
We're
started
back
up
on
YouTube
YouTube,
again,
baby. We're
yeah,
back, we're back.
we're so back.
Oh my gosh. Going back to our roots.
Hopefully, one day we'll when we get back into person though, that'll be the real jump start. I'm real excited for that.
And then we're gonna get drunk on camera again.
That'll be we should inaugurate, like, if the whole you moving in with me or something, or like, later law school, if we have more of an extended time period where we're able to do in person podcasts, we should do an inaugural in person video, maybe a little tipsy podcast.
Behind a paywall.
Yeah, off the record. We'll think of a good title for it. Illogically ignorant after dark.
After dark.
All right, any other thoughts?
Anyways, Uh no thoughts. The world's ending. There's no hope for the world. No, I'm joking.
Go
No,
USA though.
go USA. We're back.
America number one.
America number one. Thank you guys for listening. This is Illogically Ignorant. See you guys next time.
Later.